All you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months, and even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff, even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm going to keep ticking. But no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hey, everyone. Let's all stop what we're doing right now and take a moment. That felt good, huh? Just like that, we had a nice, special sort of moment together. Of course, they don't all need to be quiet moments to be special. They could be loud moments, goofy moments, sporty moments, dorky moments. Moments where we talk or walk or just hang out. It doesn't really matter. They all count. Because every time dads like us take a moment like that to spend with our kids, well, it's pretty momentous. Sounds like somebody agrees. So let's take a moment to make a moment. Today, call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
It's Meals on Wheels. 1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Terry Crews. Actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
The Vikings are likely to make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Cooper Kupp says, don't be surprised if Aaron Donald comes back to the Rams later this season. And Antonio Brown files for bankruptcy and much, much more here on the Sports Loudmouth. Doc Rivers is going to have Damian Lillard run very fast out of town. Does he help them win? You're under 500. Aaron Judge helps the Yankees win. You're paying the players $300 million. You better be sure that guy's going to help you get over the hump. For some reason, this guy is completely lost on calling plays. Maybe he's a therapist. Did you see Lamar Jackson cry to the referee? No, he didn't. We are back for a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Mr. Nose Picker himself, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listings for all our shows throughout our network. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And you can call us at 631-672-3108. Speedy, what is up, man?
Maybe Alexi Lafreniere was picking his nose while he was playing defense at the end of the game yesterday.
Well, he had something up his rear end or something.
Yeah.
Because he likes to put the puck in his own nets. I mean, that has been the forte of the New York Rangers. Every single time they have a chance to move on to the Stanley Cup Finals, they've done it once in the last, 30 years. So it's not a good sign for the New York Rangers as they're down 1-0, losing 3-0 against the Florida Panthers, who completely outplayed them in game number 1. But hey, it's a 7-game series. Anything's possible, Speedy. anything.
Let's go, Rangers. Alexei Lafreniere, turn your defense around and shoot the puck for the love of God in the third period.
For the love of God. Speedy, the God. Dude, who's your God, Speedy?
I don't have a God because I'm not a person that thinks of the...
Are you a religious man, Speedy?
No.
You're not a religious man?
No.
Do you like God? Are you a Jesus God?
Fine.
Are you a Jewish
God? I'm not
God?
objecting to any of them.
Do you like Buddhism? What are you?
I went to a Christian church as a kid. That was
so do you study?
No.
You don't study anything.
No.
Christianity, nothing?
No.
Have you lost yourself? Do you need to be one with God tonight?
I don't know.
Do you want me to be somebody?
Than your Moses DNA test.
There you go. There you go. Oh, I mean, seriously, I will be your leader. I will be your presentation to God tonight. What do you think about that?
Go get a time machine and go back to the New Testament.
Okay, so you want me to hang out with Jesus? That's what you want to do? So how about you? Would you take Jesus' spot on the cross?
No.
Why not?
I'm not involved in any monarchical society.
Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's a good one. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Remember, you could be listening to us all over social media. And by the way, if you miss any one of our shows, subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple, as we are banging it, Speedy. You know what I'm talking about. We're building a statue of the sports loudmouth. Are you happy with that, Speedy?
I'm not the one building a statue.
Well, we're both building a statue. I mean, you're hanging from your underwear and I'm just crossing my hands. Yeah. There you go. Oh, so why don't we get into it? At 8:30, we'll be talking to Golden State Warriors play-by-play broadcaster Tim Roye. He will be joining us. He's been on our show before. He is fantastic. I would love to hear what he's got to say about the Golden State Warriors and what they should do in the offseason, because there's a lot of questions with the Golden State Warriors. At 9:30, we'll be talking to New York Jets former running back Bilal Powell. He will be joining us again. We'll get into some New York Jets. We'll get into everything and really the running back position, as he was one of the better running backs I believe the Jets have ever had. The Vikings are likely to make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. I believe this to be true, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know, Kirk Cousins is no longer with the Minnesota Vikings. So where are they going to pour all their money, ladies and gentlemen? They're going to pour it in the great Justin Jefferson. But I don't know how great he's going to be with J.J. McCarthy there. So that is going to be very, very interesting. Cooper Kupp says, don't be surprised if Aaron Donald comes back to the Rams later this season. Is Cooper Kupp on drugs? I mean, he just said he was done. He didn't even want to sign that 3-year extension last year. He signed it because, hey, you know what? You're giving me free money. Why don't you give it to me? Aaron Donald's done. His career is over, but we'll get into it. Antonio Brown files for bankruptcy. Are you surprised? What is he buying? CFL teams, WFL teams? I mean, the guy has his hand dipped in everything. How many houses he's thrown away? I mean, he's beaten up houses in Florida he's rented and paid it off. He might as well have bought the house. I mean, seriously. Antonio Brown is out of his mind. LeBron James says it's ridiculous that the coaches can't challenge calls more than twice per game. Well, LeBron, what you say is what you get. If LeBron wants to change it, why don't we give him 5 calls? How about that? Give him 5 challenges a game. Make the game even more boring, LeBron. Oh, my God. Former NBA referee Bill Spooner calls Chris Paul the biggest a-hole he's seen. Well, I'm not surprised about that. I mean, Speedy, you know anything about a-holes?
No, I don't.
You don't know nothing about an a-hole? Are you an a-hole?
It's a matter of judgment.
Well, it is a matter of judgment, but we'll get into that. LaMelo Ball being sued for hitting a 11-year-old kid with his car, actually running over his foot. So we will get into that as LaMelo Ball or the Ball family are back in the papers. So we're loving that. When you hear about the Ball family, it usually is craziness. This is even crazier. So we will get into it. College quarterback Jaden Rashada, right? Rashada sues Florida for fraud relating NIL money. So this is an interesting story. And you want to know something? As we begin to conversate about NIL deals and how much money these guys are getting, now you're going to hear stories like this, because This is a crazy story, so we'll get into that. Let's parlay around 9 o'clock with Chaz and Wes. No Derek tonight. It doesn't seem like
he's out of town.
Oh, what's he doing? Hanging out with the girl?
He didn't tell me.
Oh, that's sad. Adam Schefter reports that the Vikings are close to a deal to make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Nick Bosa has the biggest contract among non-quarterbacks, making $34 million per year, and Jefferson contract will be likely surpassing that contract. A.J. Brown's new extension has the highest average annual value for wide receiver deals, making him $32 million per year. Before missing 10 games last season, Jefferson made the Pro Bowl in all 3 of his other seasons and was also a first-team All-Pro Offensive Rookie of the Year. Jefferson has 392 catches, 5,899 yards, and 30 touchdowns in 60 games in the NFL. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. There's no arguments to that. He is the closest thing to Jerry Rice. Now, we've said this before many, many times. Odell Beckham was one of those guys for like 3 years before he couldn't stay healthy. Now, Justin Jefferson, he's been fairly healthy his first 3 years. Now, as we see him getting offered this big contract, I believe you're going to see this contract not be, reached. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if Justin Jefferson is going to stay healthy for this 3, 4, maybe even 5-year deal, which could make him the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. But what makes Justin Jefferson so special is it doesn't matter where you put him. You put him in a slot, you put him on the outside, you can even use him as a running back. This guy is unstoppable. This guy can catch anything. Now, he doesn't have Kirk Cousins anymore. He doesn't have any semi-elite quarterback throwing him the ball. And I don't care what anybody says. We've heard this many, many times. Kirk Cousins is really the value of what his team is. I don't believe that. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He went to Washington. He was drafted by Washington. When he took over for RG3, he was as good or even better than RG3. So you could say that about RG3 when he was drafted. He really was the value of what his team was. So I don't believe that. And then you see him go to Minnesota. He was successful in Minnesota. And Minnesota had some of their best seasons as a team, as an organization, because of Kirk Cousins. Now, you need weapons. You needed Dalvin Cook, who was not there last year as they decided not to sign him. You need guys like Justin Jefferson. You need weapons on the inside and the out. You needed to make a trade for a top-end tight end. You need those kind of weapons to open up the field for guys like Justin Jefferson and the running game. But Justin Jefferson, there is no twist to it. He's as good as any one of them. Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, you name it, he's as good as any one of them. What makes him so sensational is not even with the routes that he can run and position that he can play. The guy is a born leader. He demands the ball. Everybody knows he's getting the ball, but still, you can't stop him. He's unstoppable. Now, you could double team him. I've seen teams try to triple team him, and it's impossible to stop him. So what teams try to do is the only way you can beat him is if you beat him with another player. They let Justin Jefferson beat them. They let Justin Jefferson get his 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game, because in their way, and in most teams' way, if you can stop everybody else around him, you can win those games. Now, when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, is it worth giving Justin Jefferson that kind of money? Right now, their team is rebuilding. You have a rookie quarterback. You have a coach that's only been there for 2 years or 3 years, and he's a rookie coach, really. He has never coached a team that has a rookie quarterback. Now we're going to see O'Connell actually coach a rookie quarterback. Now, the development of the quarterback is going to be left to him. Minnesota's probably going to give him 2 years to try to develop J.J. McCarthy. If he can't develop him, he will be fired. Here's the problem. When you have a rookie quarterback, you're going to go through these times where he is not going to make every throw. He is not going to be able to put the ball in positions to help Justin Jefferson make those plays. And that's the problem. We've seen this with the New York Jets. We've seen it. How many quarterbacks have the Jets had that they've drafted and it hasn't worked? It didn't matter who their wide receiver was. It didn't matter who their running back or their offensive line was. And right now, Minnesota, they need to rebuild certain positions on that team. Now, they have a good offense. Their offensive line is pretty good. The problem is, where is their defense going? This is not the same defense that it was 5 years ago, where it was one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. Last year, their defense played very well in the first half and fell apart in the second half. They need to be consistent. Now, drafting players are very, very good for the development of the team and bringing in youth for an organization that's trying to rebuild. But if I was Justin Jefferson, do I want to sign a contract with a rebuilding team? You are 25 years old, 24, going to be 25. You sign that 4 or 5 year deal. By the time that deal is over, you're 29 years old. How many years do you have left as a star quarterback, a star wide receiver? 3, 2 at best? We've seen this before. Calvin Johnson retired at 30. Antonio Brown retired at 30, 31. Maybe because of his brains, but other reasons too. But I mean, a lot of these guys don't usually play past 31, 32. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't. That doesn't mean he can't go down as one of the top 3, top 4 wide receivers. But do you want to do it in Minnesota? Do you want to do it there? Do you want to go to a team, an organization, a franchise that's going to give you a chance to win every single year? I don't know if Minnesota's the team. I don't know if signing that big-time contract, any team would give you that big-time contract. You kidding me? If the Jets have the money, the Jets would give you 38, 40 million. There are other teams right now rebuilding that could use a top-end wide receiver that has a better chance of winning a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years. How about the Packers? The Packers have Jordan Love. Everybody loves him. I think he would fit very, very well. Now, I don't think Minnesota would ever trade him to a divisional team. But there are teams out there. How about the Pittsburgh Steelers looking for a wide receiver? He would fit perfect over there. I don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball in the beginning of the season, but hey, he'd be going to a franchise that has a top defense, has a team that's ready to win now. I don't know if Minnesota is the team, is the franchise he wants to sign with. Now, it seems like it's going to happen. But once he signs that contract, let's say Minnesota has a poor year and they win 3 games in a division that, let's be honest, they're not winning. The Lions are the beast of that division. And then you could argue, I would say the Green Bay Packers the second best team in that division. So right now you're looking at 3rd or 4th in your division. Do you want to go and you want to stay with a franchise where you don't have a chance to win? We've seen a lot of wide receivers never win. Never win. A lot of great ones. Never win a Super Bowl. And because they decided to stay with their franchise, they decided to take the money with that franchise when they are there to win championships. So that would be my only argument to Justin Jefferson signing with the Vikings. Does he deserve the money? Absolutely. He's better than anyone. When he is 100% healthy, you tell me who's better than Justin Jefferson. There is nobody. There's nobody that touches him. Nobody. You go up and down the wide receiving pool in the NFL, and there are tons of great talent, young talent. Justin Jefferson is the best out of all of them. And if we remember, the Buffalo Bills traded that pick to Minnesota, which led them to Stephon Diggs, who's now playing for the Texans. And Justin Jefferson obviously gets drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, and right now is probably, there's no argument. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, and the consistency and the game-to-game and season-to-season consistency is very strong with Jefferson as well. Now, obviously getting hurt this year deteriorated that kind of thing for the Vikings, where it really hurt their season. Obviously, Kirk Cousins goes down a couple weeks after Justin Jefferson goes down. So that ruined everything for the Vikings, and they were still competitive amidst all that, but they were not going to be a playoff team. And that's the thing that Justin Jefferson has to realize with now Kirk Cousins being gone, is that kind of thing they need to be able to get him the money to get JJ McCarthy developed very well, because their other skill players are good. Hawkinson's a nice tight end. I like Addison as a good receiver, but he's smaller. And Aaron Jones is a good running back. But having JJ McCarthy not have that number one type of receiver could hurt his development. And we've seen teams do this, and it makes it harder for them to develop quicker. And you talk about the Jets too. Like the Jets, except for this recent regime, have not set up these quarterbacks very well with good wide receiver talent. They always have to poach free agent wide receivers because they couldn't develop them themselves. The Vikings are finally developing wide receivers themselves, and it helped Kirk Cousins get a kind of second win in his career. Even though he's had some good years statistically with Washington, he got even better with Minnesota. And this kind of thing with JJ McCarthy, who I'm not crazy about as a prospect, and our friend Brian Bosarge was not crazy about him as a prospect either when we had him on the show yesterday. They need somebody like that to take it to the next level. He wants to be anywhere close to these other quarterbacks in this draft class. And that's why I think they have to make this move no matter how much money he's going to want.
It would worry me right now if you're going to sign Justin Jefferson to $40 million a year, that he is not going to produce the numbers that he did with Kirk Cousins. Okay. And that's a fact. It's not because he can't make the plays. He can't go up and get the ball. He's going to put himself in harm's way, because I don't know if a young quarterback like JJ McCarthy is going to be able to get the ball into spots that Kirk Cousins can. And Kirk Cousins is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. So you're putting him in harm's way, and you're putting him in a disastrous situation. Now I'm talking about JJ McCarthy, because if he can't get the ball in positions that Justin Jefferson's going to like it, you're going to see a lot of complaining. Justin Jefferson, even though he's not much, with the press, and he's not there trying to speak to the press, it doesn't matter. We've seen guys not be very involved with the press, and then all of a sudden become involved with the press because they're just so upset and so disgusted the way the team is playing. So, and he is a personality. He's a very strong personality. I don't know if anybody's seen some of the stuff that he does on YouTube and even on his commercials. The guy's a strong personality. And eventually, because of who he is and his personality, it's going to bring out a lot of turmoil in that locker room. And who's their franchise now? It's JJ McCarthy. It's not Justin Jefferson. Right now, it's Justin Jefferson. But once JJ McCarthy is there for 2 years, he becomes their franchise. So it's going to be a lot different when Justin Jefferson is standing right on top of the mountain, and then all of a sudden he gets pushed to the side for JJ McCarthy.
And you looked at the trajectories of these other wide receivers that were in very similar circumstances, where sometimes they've wanted out, but sometimes they've also stayed loyal to the team. And that's the dynamic that you're going to have to see with Justin Jefferson. Because I agree with you. I think O'Connell's going to get 2 years because it's his quarterback. This is his choice of quarterback. If they wanted to trade up for Drake May, they could have. They clearly didn't want to do it at that price, so they went for JJ McCarthy. That was their option. And we've seen good wide receivers do that with bad quarterback play. Mike Evans stayed. It worked out for them. They won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady once Tom Brady got over there. But then you have also the other end, Michael Thomas. Think about how good statistically he was at the beginning of his career. Then Drew Brees gets hurt, and then they struggle the next year too. And all of a sudden he has all these fake injury reports. He never wants to actually play for them. And finally, the Saints had to cut him this offseason. Devontae Adams, statistically very good. The Packers were a good team, but Aaron Rodgers and that whole front office thing didn't get along. He gets traded. So what dynamic is it going to bring for this Minnesota Vikings team is going to be another question. McCarthy, I think O'Connell's going to put him in position where he could be able to succeed. Will it win them games this year? I don't know. I picked them last when we did our schedule release last week, and I think a lot of people would favor them to be last. But I do think Justin Jefferson is the perfect guy as a route runner and a skill receiver to play to JJ McCarthy's strengths too.
Isn't it fitting that the Bills are looking for a wide receiver? They draft Keon Coleman, and then this is the guy they could have had if they didn't decide to make a trade for Stephon Diggs. And honestly, they could have developed a guy like Jefferson. So I think now they're licking their lips because they're another team. They're another organization. They don't have the money right now because they just paid their quarterback and Josh Allen. So they're now trying to find somebody in the draft. And for some reason, they traded away their spot to the Kansas City Chiefs for Xavier Worthy and gave the Chiefs a weapon that they shouldn't have. But Another team that could be looking for a wide receiver is the New England Patriots. They're an organization. They were interested in Brandon Ayuk during the draft. It didn't go as the way they wanted, as everybody saw. Even Jeff, I'll give Jeff a lot of credit. He brought up and he said, don't be surprised if San Francisco drafts a wide receiver. They did. They drafted Pearsall. And what did they do? He says if they do that, they're trading Ayuk. Well, Pearsall and him are very, very good friends or something like that. They played for the same college. So Ayuk is happy. So he's going to be there for at least this year as he takes the franchise tag. So I don't know what is going to happen with Justin Jefferson. But if I was the Minnesota Vikings and you have a rookie quarterback, and I understand you have Addison, you have a good tight end. They're all under contract. You have a guy that has a rookie contract. If Justin Jefferson is going to take away certain amount of money for your team to bring in some free agents to rebuild this team and this organization around O'Connell, because he took over a team that wasn't his team.
Right.
So now, to me, I would use Justin Jefferson as a trade piece where you can really rebuild your team. You probably can get 3 first-round draft picks for a guy like Justin Jefferson. He's as important as a quarterback is to a franchise.
Yeah, and the Vikings now have to use the rookie model that we've seen with a rookie quarterback that teams like the Bengals have used, where you mentioned the defense. Like, they lost a lot of the Mike Zimmer defensive stars, and they really rebuilt in their own image now with Brian Flores. Now, some of those guys did well for them last year. They drafted a lot of good defensive players where their defense did improve from where they were in 2022, where they were one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. And even the Giants could score 31 points on them in the playoff game. Now you're seeing that kind of thing where J.J. McCarthy having a rookie contract, Justin Jefferson will have the big wide receiver contract. They have to figure out the rest of this team in order to keep Justin Jefferson happy in a division that's a lot more well-rounded. It used to be just the Packers and like maybe a second team was a wild card team, but there were never enough stability with that. Now all 4 teams are actually pretty well built, and they're all building with that same kind of model. And if Justin Jefferson buys into that, they're going to have those 2 years to make it happen.
Do you think he's going to buy into it?
I do, because I do think he has no ill will with O'Connell or the organization.
Not yet.
Not yet. Now, J.J. McCarthy, how he is as a leader is going to change a lot of different things. Now, I'm not worried about him as being that type of issue when it comes to like managing the huddle and doing the basic things for a quarterback. I'm more worried about his like secondary traits and stuff like that I don't think are that great, that you're going to lose in comparison to Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins is a top 7 quarterback when he's healthy. But in terms of the leadership aspect, I'm not as worried about that. But the contract itself, that's why I do think you're going to see some kind of opt-out. You've seen it a lot with these other wide receiver contracts where if it still doesn't work after 2 years and O'Connell's fired, maybe then they'll trade him.
It's very, very interesting moving forward what Minnesota is going to do when they sign Jefferson, because they're going to give him a big-time contract. He's probably going to make closer to $40 million. And when you're paying a guy that kind of money, you're setting your team back with other contracts. And when you're deciding, now, obviously, you don't have to pay a quarterback right now because you're bringing Sam Darnold. He's the backup quarterback. J.J. McCarthy is going to be your starting quarterback. So you really don't have to pay a quarterback a top-end money probably for 5 years. But again, how long is it going to take Justin Jefferson to start complaining that he wants out, where you're going to put your team in a situation where even though he's under contract and you can move him for draft picks, where teams know now you're not going to get as much back for Justin Jefferson because he wants out. So to me, they're putting themselves in a really bad situation. Now, I think Justin Jefferson, you got to take a chance with him because you know how talented he is and you know he can change a game. But if I was the organization and I was the GM of that organization, I'm trying to move him. I'm trying to get back as much as I possibly can and rebuild around my young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy.
And that's why I also would front load the contract as well, because you want to make Justin Jefferson happy right away, where J.J. McCarthy is not going to get paid for a while. Those 2 years are make Justin Jefferson happy. Then he'll probably want to stay there longer, and do what the Lions did too with Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract. They gave him a lot of that money guaranteed as well. Do that. Make him happy so that kind of thing does not become an issue down the road, unless J.J. McCarthy becomes that much of an issue down the road, or Kevin O'Connell.
NFL Network reports that Cooper Kupp told them that the Rams aren't ruling out Aaron Donald's comeback. Kupp added that nobody on the Rams' current roster will take Donald's locker and jersey number at number 99. Reports say it would most likely be late in the season signing if the Rams are in playoff contention. The Rams were 10-7 last season and were the second wild card team in the NFC, losing 24-23 to the Lions in the first round. Donald was a first-team All-Pro last season with 8 sacks, 16 tackles for loss, and 23 quarterback hits. Donald is 33 years old and has been a first-team All-Pro 8 in 8 out of 10 NFL seasons. And right now, there's only one guy that has been in more All-Pro teams in history, and that is Speedy
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. So it's going to be very, very. And I think, listen, Aaron Donald is not coming back. I don't care what Cooper Kupp says. Aaron Donald's not coming back. There was a reason why he retired. He's 33 years old. I think he signed a contract with one of the big stations.
Yeah, it was a 2-year extension, I think, with the Rams at the time, and then they just signed he's negotiating some kind of Amazon deal or something like that.
Yeah, he's going to be working with Amazon. He's going to be a broadcaster. That's what he's going to be. I think if I was Aaron Donald and he's signing a big contract with Amazon, he's probably going to make between $5 and $6 million a year. Why would he go back to the football field and put his body in harm's way? He's done everything. He's one of the greatest defensive linemen to ever play. You can argue he's one of the top 3 to ever play. So why would he come back? Now, obviously, he won a Super Bowl. He has nothing else to prove. When you look at what he is, the specimen that he became, and really how he developed, when he came into the league, what was he, drafted 13 or 12? Something of that magnitude.
Right after Odell went to the Giants, 13.
Yeah. He was drafted at 13 from Pittsburgh. He was overweight. People said he was too small for the position.
Right.
Well, look at what he turned into be. He was a beast. He changed his body. He changed his diet. He became one of the best defensive linemen to ever play the game. Now, I understand why Cooper Kupp is saying this. I understand. He's trying to scare the teams that are in his division. He has San Francisco in his division. He has Seattle in his division. So he has teams that are going to be fighting for that number 1 spot and trying to fight for that wild card spot or even the division championship. Now, I look at Aaron Donald. I look at his talent. I look at his ability. And you look at what he could do for the franchise if he came back. Well, he's going to sell more jerseys. Now, him stepping away from the game just tells you that he's sick and tired of being injured. He's 33 years old. The stress and the training that he has to put his body through in the offseason, he didn't want to do it anymore. And we've seen guys. We've seen Andrew Luck. He didn't want to do that anymore. He understood the whole CTE situation that was really breaking the skin for the NFL to try to figure out how to conduct it. And he realized that, as much as he loved football, it wasn't that important to him. Aaron Donald had a long career. He played over 10 years. He was at the top of his career. He was at the top of his position in his career. So he has nothing else more to prove. And to me, when you look at him as a player, why would you go back to the Rams? There are other teams that would take Aaron Donald on for at least 1 year or a 2-year contract where he has a better chance of winning a Super Bowl. How about Kansas City? How about going to Kansas City and trying to win a championship with Chris Jones in the middle? That would be dynamic. And he doesn't need to sign anymore and sign a big contract. The guy made enough money. Why would he need to go back to the Rams? The Rams are not winning the Super Bowl next year. As good as their offense could be with Puka and Kupp and their running game with Williams, they're going to have a good, and their offensive line played well last year, but that's one of the weakest parts of their team. Matthew Stafford is an old man. Why would he go back there? You don't even know if Matthew Stafford's going to be healthy the whole season. What would make sense, he'd go to an AFC team. He'd go to a team that has a chance to win right now and really put himself on top of that top-end players when you're talking about Lawrence Taylor. You're talking about Reggie White when you're being compared to those guys.
It's interesting because I think if he were to chase the individual feats, I don't think he would have announced retirement initially. I think he would have tried to play out that whole season. You get a 12-sack season, 13-sack season. You're right now in the realm of those types of guys. I think Lawrence Taylor
he still is.
Yeah, right. I definitely think he still is because what he's done, especially as a 3-4 defensive tackle and a 3-4 defensive end for much of his career, is unheard of numbers. Nobody gets 100 sacks in that kind of scheme. And he had 111 in his career amidst all that. And I think if he was still trying to, quote unquote, chase those sack records, he wouldn't have retired. Now, I think it's interesting with the Rams, and Cooper Kupp, I think, brings up a good point, is we're not ruling it out. It's how good the Rams team culture is with a very unique strategy in terms of building their team. Because we've seen them go from the Jeff Fisher years where they built a really good defense on paper but had no quarterback, and they had good running backs. Then they go Sean McVay, where they built up a good receiving core. They're probably the best in terms of developing wide receivers the last 6 years. And their defense, they kept trading for one guy, then trading this guy, trading that guy, which is not the way you usually build a team, but they made it work. And I think that's what Aaron Donald is trying to figure out now, because their defense is still very young, and they drafted 2 guys in the first 2 picks in this year's draft to help up their pass rush, where their offense is already pretty much set. I think Donald wants to see also how that defense is, because it clears like he loves LA. He clearly loves Sean McVay and that defensive coaching staff. Now, Raheem Morris is in Atlanta. We'll see if that makes a difference as well. But I think Aaron Donald is factoring all those things in when saying, all right, if I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back in December.
I understand that, but why would he do that when he's signing a big contract with Amazon? That would piss Amazon off. If you're going to go in and you're going to be a broadcaster and you're going to work with the Amazon Prime or whatever he is planning to do, and that's what he wants to do, that's where he went. I think he went to school for sports management or something of that magnitude. He wants to be a broadcaster. He wants to be the next, defensive lineman. And another thing, when you're eating and you're training your body throughout the season, you're really beating up your body. As a defensive lineman, you're eating a significant amount. You're eating about 13,000 calories every single day to really keep up with your workouts and everything like that. If you're stepping away from football and you're retiring, you're not going to be doing that stuff anymore. It's just like Jason Kelce. Everybody says his father came out and said the other day, actually a couple of weeks ago when he was on, I forget what podcast, they said, how my son is not coming back is when he's going to lose weight. When you see an offensive lineman lose weight, it means he's done with football. So, and that's what his father said. So have we seen Jason Kelce lose weight? Has he changed his body structure? No. So what does that tell me? He has a better chance of coming back sometime this season if he wants to come back and he misses football than I believe Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald right now he's going to be signing with an Amazon Prime organization, and he knows that he has a chance to really structure his career around broadcasting, and people are going to like him and people are going to like his personality. He's very, very good on the mic. I've seen him on podcasts. I've seen him on, as a guest on a podcast. He might even start his own podcast. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I understand why Cooper Kupp is saying this. It's definitely a story, and it's definitely driving the LA Rams and the organization to believe that he is going to come back. It just doesn't make sense. If I was Aaron Donald, I've got nothing else to prove. And if I do come back, it wouldn't be for the Rams.
Yeah, it's interesting because I also think that Aaron Donald, I think if Cooper Kupp is saying this, maybe they know something about this fitness regimen, this hunger regimen, that he doesn't seem like completely checked out, retired. I think Aaron Donald is conscious of that kind of thing if somebody like Cooper Kupp is saying it, because it is NFL Network. It's not like it's just a small LA page reporting this. It's NFL Network. It seems pretty legitimate. Like, I would say smaller companies within the team might want to write something to spread rumors all the time. Like you say that a lot with the Jets too. Like people write stuff just to spread a rumor, just to get clicks.
This is a rumor.
I know. I'm just saying. I think it's a little more legitimate based on that, and just because I do think he has good connection with the Rams and that team culture as a whole that's very good. And I also think too that Aaron Donald. We talk about it all with a lot of these football guests we have on. Like, how quickly are you going to lose your love for the game too? Like a lot of our football guests we've had on, the former players, said it was very tough. It doesn't go away right away. And who says that kind of thing can't happen with Aaron Donald?
The last 2 seasons, Aaron Donald has been hurt. He usually stays healthy. He is 33 years old. His body is breaking down. He's not the same player he was in his mid-20s. He's not the same player when he was 24 years old and he was at the top of his game. He's a guy that is breaking down. And to carry all that weight, remember, Aaron Donald is a big man, muscular, carrying on his knees, his legs, his ankles, his feet. He's had feet problems over the last couple of years, and he's had ankle problems in the last couple of years. You're talking about holding up that weight, staying in shape, staying in football shape, training your body during the season when you're not playing and getting ready if the team actually has a chance to make the playoffs. It doesn't make sense. If he's going to play, he might as well go into the season and play. If he's not going to train with the team, he's not going to stay in football shape, why would he come back and look like a shell of himself? It doesn't make sense. It's not the quarterback position, guys. It's not the running back position. And by the way, every single one of those guys that take a certain amount of time off, they never come back the same. So why would Aaron Donald come back and actually play at mediocre, then he could train with the team right now in the offseason and still be an elite player. It doesn't make any sense. I do not see Aaron Donald coming back. So for all those fans that believe it, good luck. I mean, I want to know what fish stakes, because to me, I mean, he's a football coach and he understands how the game works. And he understands how you have to train your body throughout the season to be ready for the playoffs. Do you believe Aaron Donald is going to come back at any time this year if he's not going to be training at OTAs or getting ready for the regular season?
So, normally you would say no, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime player, right? So you can't rule it out. And I think Cooper Kupp is being smart, like you mentioned before, trying to keep the rest of the division on notice that the best player, arguably, of the last 20 years plus on defense is still lurking around. And if we need him and we're close, we're going to make that phone call. I think it's mostly smokescreen. The Rams would love to be able to replace that production. As far as what you're saying with building up your body, at this time of the year, at least for my high school football team, this time of the year, we generally, not going like crazy like the NFL where they're managing how long they nap each day and, like what type of exercises are best for their body at this hour of the day. We're not doing that, but we basically tell them, you want to add weight during the winter and the spring seasons if you're not playing sports, but then you want to work on your speed training and cut weight around this time of the year. If Donald doesn't, get to either one of those phases, he's not really going to be much more than kind of a gimmicky player, even with all of his, obvious talent and, past production. So, it's kind of a gimmick, but it is Aaron Donald. So how can you rule it out? How can you brush that aside? That's one of the GOATs.
I don't believe he's coming back at his position and at his age. Now, if he was like 29 years old and he stepped away, everybody thought Calvin Johnson was going to come back. I knew he wasn't coming back. Everybody thought that Barry Sanders was coming back. I remember when he retired and he sent a fax, and they even did that documentary about him. Bye-bye, Barry. There was no way he's coming back. These are the kind of guys, and I'm going to say this. When you're at the top of your game and you're the best of the best, you have nothing else to prove. Aaron Donald has nothing to prove. Why would he come back and try to injure or re-injure himself when he has a good contract with Prime? He's making enough money to feed his family, and he can move on with his career as a Hall of Fame player. It doesn't make any sense. I understand why Cooper Kupp is saying it. He's putting that division on notice. He wants them to believe he's coming back, but it's not going to happen. It doesn't make any sense, AKA why they brought in and why they drafted the way they did this year. That's why they did it. They drafted all those defensive players, those two top defensive players from my Seminoles. They did that for a reason. They did it because they know that Aaron Donald's not coming back. It doesn't make any sense why he would come back when their team is building around youth now.
Keith says, I knew Barry Sanders wasn't coming back as well. Yeah, and the other difference is, too, I think with the Lions as well. When Calvin Johnson retired, they were a dysfunctional mess at that time. And Andrew Luck with the Colts, they weren't dysfunctional. They were a playoff team the year before, but anything can happen with Jim Irsay as your owner. You've seen fallouts with players all the time. That's why Peyton Manning left and a bunch of other guys. But the Rams, I don't think, have that kind of issue with ownership or with coaching as well, where I would not rule that out with Aaron Donald if he, like Errol was saying, is in football shape. But again, would he have retired initially is another question.
Speedy, I work out. All right. I work out a lot. I work out 3-4 times a week. I'm 42 years old. Okay. I know what it takes. I know my body needs that break, that needs that 24-hour break. When I was a kid, when I was 22 years old, my recovery time was like 12 hours. I was recovered the next day. I was in the gym again. I can't do that anymore. My body, now, obviously, Aaron Donald's 33 years old, but he's got a body. You play football for that many years. You play football for 11 or 12 years. I mean, you're getting beaten up. Your body is like a 40-year-old man. I mean, this guy, his body was beaten up. It doesn't matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter how he did. Have you ever seen him squat? Have you ever seen him train? I mean, this guy is an animal in the gym. So if he's not doing that, he's concentrating on broadcasting and trying to build his name as a broadcaster. So maybe after he has one good year with Prime, he can get a bigger contract with ESPN or one of those big marketplaces where he can make even more money. Why would he walk away from that to play as a mediocre player. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I understand if he was a quarterback, it'd be different. If he was like a Tom Brady, he was that good. You're playing at a position. Your body breaks down faster at the offensive line and defensive line. These guys are big men. Big men. You know this, Fish. You're a big man. You're 6'3", and at one point you were closer to 280 pounds, 300 pounds. I mean, your body breaks down, and you're getting beaten up. You're the best player at your position in the last 10, 15 years, and you know that you're getting double and triple teamed, and you know that your body is not the same that it was 6, 7 years ago. Why would you put your body through that? Again, you've done everything. You've won a Super Bowl. And if you're going to do that, don't do it with the Rams. Do it with Kansas City. Do it with a team that has the best chance of winning. That would make sense. Do you think the Rams have a chance of winning a Super Bowl this year? Honestly.
Probably not.
No, probably not. They don't have a chance. It doesn't matter how good their offense is. You have a bunch of youngsters right now. Even if you bring Aaron Donald back, he's not the same Aaron Donald. He's not training with the team. He's not playing at the top of his game. He's not playing for what? At the end of the season? So you're telling me he's going to come back in week 14, week 13. That means he has been out for 13 games of training because he's traveling and doing broadcasting. You think he's training at the top of his game or for his body to be ready for football shape? It's impossible. This is not the quarterback. You're not a quarterback can sit out for a year, 2 years. As long as his arm's healthy, he can come back. All he needs to know is how to throw the football. This is a defensive lineman. This is a guy that's got to run through offensive linemen that are 350 pounds. Built 20-something-year-old guys. You're going to tell me he's just going to step right in? He's going to be Aaron Donald again? It's impossible. It doesn't make sense.
No way he's Aaron Donald the way we remember him. Aaron Donald, the way we remember him, played 90% of the snaps, never came off the field, and was a terror in both the run game and the pass game. What you may get if he comes back late season, as is being suggested, is more of like the Bryce Huff package. More of you're going to only see him in pass rushing situations, probably because he doesn't have the mass that he used to have, and he's probably a little bit leaner, probably more of a defensive ends weight. But he's not going to play DN. He's just going to rush the quarterback, get it in around 30% of snaps, third down situations. That's how you'd use him. And then, teams would have to have two guys pay attention to him, even at this stage of his career, which then opens up blitz things for the defensive coordinator, which is what I would expect if they would do that. But again, it's a long shot.
I don't think he's coming back. I understand why Cooper Kupp is doing it. It makes a lot of sense. It's a smokescreen. It's always been a smokescreen. And I don't care what the NFL Network. I've seen a lot of things being promoted or said on the NFL Network that was untrue. Okay, so I remember when Lamar Jackson, they were trying to figure out if Lamar Jackson's staying with Baltimore, is he leaving, and half the guys on the NFL Network were saying that he's probably going to be traded. Okay, I remember that. And now all of a sudden he gets that big time contract. Oh, there's no way Baltimore is going to give him that extension. If they were going to do it last year, and he still got the extension. So they were wrong about that too. That's just my opinion. USA Today reports that former NFL receiver Antonio Brown has filed for bankruptcy. Times Union reports that Brown owes $3 million to 8 different creditors. He also owes money for a civil suit to a plumber, a truck driver, a personal chef, and a woman who accused him for sexual assault while he was playing for the Raiders. Brown has also been accused of breaking into a Florida house with guns and threatening Arena League football players with guns in the last 2 years. Brown made $88 million during the NFL in his NFL career, but now has less than $50,000 in total assets. Wow. 50,000. This reminds me of Antoine Walker. Does anybody know who Antoine Walker is? Antoine Walker played for the Boston Celtics. And he made almost, I think it was at 68 or 70 million as an NBA player. And he is bankrupt. He has no money because he was a bettor. Not sports betting, but he was at the casinos and he bet his money away. Antonio Brown has had his hands dipped I don't care about plumbers and truck drivers. He's had his hands dipped in porno stars. He's had his hands dipped into, escorts. We've seen this before. And again, Antonio Brown is not all normal in his head. He's the guy is out of his mind. Some of the things that we've seen him say when he's been interviewed, he's been on a couple of podcasts. He was on HBO. He did Real Sports. Some of the things that he has said, and he wants to sue the NFL, still wants to sue the NFL for what they did to him. And maybe he has a case. I don't know. But again, Antonio Brown, for all the things that he's done off the field, why would anybody stick up for him? Why would anybody vouch for him for all the craziness that's happened to him over the last couple of years? Now, I understand players don't know how to move their money. They don't know how to control their spending habits. And we've seen this before. As I mentioned, Antoine Walker. There are other guys that we have seen over the last couple of years, drinking problems, drug problems, car problems. And what I mean by cars, buying 1 million cars and not realizing that they're throwing their money away in a piece of metal on wheels. They don't know how to control their assets. Antonio Brown, he rented out a house in Florida, I think it was. Yep. He had parties in the house. They destroyed it. He got sued. By the time he got sued and he paid off the damages, he could have bought the damn house. The man has been a disgrace. Do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. Antonio Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the last 20 years. Will he ever get inducted into the Hall of Fame? There's no way in hell. There's no way in hell for all these off-the-field situations, even on-the-field situations. What he did at MetLife Stadium, taking off his jersey, taking off his pads, throwing it to the side, fighting with his coaches, fighting with some of the players, and walking off the field, putting his thumbs up in the end zone during the game. That doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe he has CTE problems. I don't know, but we saw what Burfict did to him.
Yep.
We saw what Vontae did to him. But it's sad. It's sad what we've seen this guy become. He got that big contract from Oakland. Does anybody remember that? Yep. John Gruden. Within it took him less than the season start before they got rid of him.
The feud with Mike Mayock, too, remember?
He couldn't get along with anybody. The man is he's uncontrollable. He's had problems with women. He's had problems with ex-girlfriends. He's had problems taking care of his children. He doesn't even know how many children he has. This has been a big problem. And again, I understand. We've seen this before, again, going back to people that can't afford some of their assets. They don't realize that $88 million is a lot of money. But when you're in that life, $88 million is really not that kind of money. Look at LeBron James. LeBron James is a billionaire. He's had his hand, or he has his hand dipped into so many things. Production, pizzerias, you name it, his hands are dipped. The man has money coming out from all different places. What did Antonio Brown have money coming out of? Just his football career. Nobody wanted to endorse him. Nobody wanted to endorse a crazy lunatic jumping around, causing trouble off the field or even on the field. Why would anybody endorse him to really sponsor their product? That wouldn't happen. So you look at LeBron James, say whatever you want. LeBron James he's the face of the NBA, just like Michael Jordan was for the time, and even Kobe Bryant was. He's the face. What LeBron James says usually means what goes. Tiger Woods was the biggest advertiser, sponsor. He had all the big sponsors, all the big advertisers for many, many years. He was the best golfer in the world. Then all of a sudden, he was screwing around with all those prostitutes. Committing adultery, he was discovered. And then he started doing drugs, and pictures started coming out. Naked pictures started coming out on social media, and his career was done. All his endorsements, a lot of his endorsements with Nike dropped him. Everybody dropped him. Why? Because of what he was doing off the field. Could you imagine? Michael Jordan's shoes. Michael Jordan did nothing off the basketball court. He was a good Samaritan for the NBA. He built the NBA for what it is today. Over 200 countries followed the NBA after Michael Jordan retired. Everyone wants to give LeBron James a lot of credit, but it was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's shoe and sneakers are the #1 selling sneakers still in professional sports. Why? Because the Nike and the brand of Nike is promoting it. Why are they promoting it? Because everybody wants it, because it's Michael damn Jordan. Antonio Brown was as good a wide receiver was as Calvin Johnson. You know why Calvin Johnson still has endorsements? You know why Calvin Johnson is still on commercials? I've seen him on commercials. He's on podcasts. Everybody wants him there. It's because he was quiet. He was Megatron. He didn't have to say anything. He retired in 10 years. He didn't do anything off the field. He was a great NFL Samaritan. Everybody wants to be like Calvin Johnson. Have you ever heard anybody wants to be like Antonio Brown? Honestly.
Crazy people.
To me, this is the problem. $88 million was there because of his football career. You have to pay your agent. You got to pay the women that you're sleeping with, that you're spitting out kids. How much do you make? If you're making $88 million and you're paying these babies' moms $30,000, $40,000 a month, probably more than that, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions and millions of dollars a year, eventually that money's gone.
They had to pay a personal trainer that you eventually had an altercation with, and all of a sudden you got to pay her in a civil lawsuit. So that adds up over time. And plus with all the other conflicts, you listed 5 of them. Remember, there was also that one where he tried to sue the Buccaneers for the mismanagement of his injuries or something like that. Now
he's trying to sue the NFL for the last 2 years.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to work, because John Gruden, who has proof on what they did to his career, he can't sue them. The NFL won that. Why?
Yep.
Because, you know why? Because they're the biggest organization in the world, in the country, and they run everything. What the NFL says is what goes. And endorsements, look what they make at the Super Bowl. Look at the endorsements of the commercials that they made. I think the commercials, just to do one commercial that was 30 seconds for the NFL Super Bowl, they made over $10 million. $10 million for a 30-second commercial.
And we were talking about Gruden last week, how much the NFL has hated him and turning against him with his lawsuit. And yet they side with him in this instance over Antonio Brown. That should prove that Antonio Brown does not know anything about what he's trying to fight for with anything. And there's so many conflicts that he's gotten involved with other teams too. And while Mike Tomlin was able to stabilize it, there were so many other coaches that could not. And remember, he almost got traded to the Bills too, and he had an altercation with their front office.
Did you know that Antonio Brown has a sex tool or something like that?
It doesn't surprise me in one bit.
Do you know that he was trying to promote a sex? I forget what it was called. It was something with a pump or something like that, called the AB. What was it? AB 84 or something like that. He was trying to promote a sex pump. Okay, this is Antonio Brown. This is what it's come to.
Yeah.
This is what's come to for this guy. I feel so bad. Well, I don't feel bad for him. I feel bad for his family. They got to deal with that.
Yeah, I feel bad for everyone that was involved in any of these altercations.
They got to deal with that crazy lunatic. I mean, the story's coming out that he's abusive. He puts his hands on women. I mean, we heard that about Floyd Mayweather, but Floyd Mayweather, it doesn't. Everything he touches turns to gold. If he wants to fight, he wants to market himself. It doesn't matter who he fights. He wants to fight Gotti. He fights Gotti. He makes $30 million because he's a name. Why didn't Antonio Brown fight Le'Veon Bell in the ring? Maybe that would sell. Maybe that would sell. Le'Veon Bell, we've heard Le'Veon Bell wants to come back to football, and the only guy he wants to play for is Mike Tomlin, because he's the only one that would actually decide to bring you in OTAs or give you a chance in OTAs, because he's the only idiot that thinks that you can still play at an NFL type of game.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize the thing about the guns with his UFL team or whatever that was. He was pointing it at players, threatening them. That clearly shows a sign of instability in itself. He breaks into this Florida house not once but twice in 2022, and then earlier in 2023.
He locked himself in that house.
I remember, yeah. It was so crazy. Like, he didn't even, whatever he was trying to look for, didn't get it. And then he locks himself in the house where he's being held as hostage with a gun
for 24 hours.
Yeah.
The police couldn't get in there.
Right.
That he would not let the police go in there. They surrounded the house before he walked out, and he had two guns, loaded guns.
Rifles, yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, the guy's out of his mind. I wouldn't be surprised if next year we find out that Antonio Brown jumped off a bridge or jumped off a building and still didn't die. I mean, he's Superman, broke his legs, broke all his bones, and still alive. I mean, the guy's out of his mind.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever's going on in that brain of his, I don't know what it is, but something's not knocking right in there. There's something not knocking right. I feel bad. I mean, I don't feel bad for him. I feel bad for the position that he's in, because I blame the NFL because they didn't protect the players, and they didn't protect Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was a nice guy. People have said, his first 4 or 5 years, he was a great teammate. He was a good person, a great person to talk to. Everybody wanted to hang out with him. I don't know what happened to him, but he's a shell of himself. He's not the same player he once was.
Yeah, the sequence you said kind of started after that Burfict hit, and Vatas Burfict on the other hand, who was also had a lot of concussions in his career as well, was saying, "Oh, Antonio Brown winked at me. He was acting like that was a sell job. I didn't really hit him like that." I mean, yeah, you did, but nevertheless, that was the first thing.
That was a hard damn hit.
Yeah, no, I know that was an illegal hit. I'm not saying it was legal, but nevertheless, that was the first one. Then there was the whole social media thing where he was streaming on Facebook.
He knocked him to another moon.
Oh, I know, and that's why I don't believe Vatas Burfict either. But nevertheless, you had the whole social media thing where it caused a whole distraction against the Patriots, or before they were playing against the Patriots. And then there was the Masked Singer instance too. Let's not forget about that. And that was the nail in the coffin for a Steelers career.
I think there's 2 lessons to be learned here about the Antonio Brown thing. Number one is, if Mike Tomlin gives up on a guy who has talent, do not pick him up, because if anyone can control him, it's that guy. And if he's given up, stay away. I mean, we've seen it over and over again from Martavis Bryant back in the day a little bit, going to Le'Veon Bell as well. They just weren't the same players anymore. Or they were such a space case that, they're just destroying their lives, publicly, and they can't play on and contribute on the team or help them. So you got to get rid of them. And the second thing is, all these stars that used to be able to get away with murder, it's not just athletes, but, you look at Kyrie, he lost all his endorsements for all the things he said a couple of years ago. Kanye West in the music field doing this, losing all of his endorsements, thinking that he was untouchable. Antonio Brown was the same way. Now, you could say you got CTE instantly from such a vicious hit from Burfict. Maybe, I don't know. But I think it's probably more like money got to his head, fame got to his head, kind of the old time tested tradition of people losing sense of reality. But for a football player, that peak's only a couple of years. Those other sports and those other professions, it's a lot longer. And he's broke now, man. And it's sad.
Really broke.
Yeah, Keith also said that Antonio Brown is mentally ill at a stat. He can't help himself. He needs help. And that's, I think, what everyone was referring to with the NFL and not helping out their former players.
I've been saying that for years. Yeah. They should be obviously putting money into an account for these players every single year, that when they're ready to retire, they have money to feed themselves and their family. Now, I think there's an NFL deal that they have, if they're a Hall of Famer of some kind, they get money for the rest of their lives or something like that. I don't know, because O.J. Simpson was getting money.
Yeah,
I know he was getting money for the NFL. I think he was getting like over $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Yeah, that might be a separate entity because the Pro Football Hall of Fame is not technically governed by the NFL. So
I don't know. Maybe
it's them paying them.
Maybe I don't even know if it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Maybe it's the NFL. I don't know how it works, but there's some kind of deal that these football players have after they retire, or Hall of Famers have, that after they retire, they get a certain amount of money. And also, these guys should have insurances. Every single one of them should have insurance policies for the rest of their lives after they leave football, for what they're putting their bodies through all these years. So it's a shame on the NFL to do what they do and not really take care of their assets and their players. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, the Ball families, the Ball family is back in the tabloids as LaMelo Ball does something stupid. And Chris Paul is the biggest a-hole as one of the referees come out and say some interesting stuff. And LeBron James' comments with, challenging calls is very interesting as well when we come back. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
That is right. Everybody knows what time it is. It is the Loudmouth Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops, giving you guys all the rundown right now in the sports world and currently right now in the NFL. Daniel Jones said he's expected to start the season opener. After tearing his ACL Week 9 against the Raiders, Jones actually says there is no doubt that he will be on the field Game 1 against the Vikings next season. Right now, Cardinals actually signed the 4th overall pick, Marvin Harrison Jr., to a 4-year rookie contract. NFL also announced that Harrison's jersey is now for sale following legal dispute with the sports manufacturer Fanatics. And switching over into the NBA, Pistons are considering firing head coach Monty Williams. After saying that Williams' job was safe after an abysmal 14-win season, they are now thinking of moving on from the head coach. And lastly, while still speaking of the Pistons are actually hiring former Pelicans GM Trajan Langdon as the team's president of basketball operations. Now I'm going to give you super scores. We're currently right now over in the MLB. Right now, the Detroit Tigers currently have a lead 1-0 against the Toronto Blue Jays, and Chicago has currently a 1-0 lead over Baltimore as the Yankees just defeated Seattle by a score of 5-0. That is currently all the time I have right now for you guys. As always, I'll be back later in the show for an update and kick it back to the boys for the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Daryl Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listing for all our shows, from Snowman in the Morning to The Wise Guys to Game On. All you have to do is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And to call us, no Jeff for the last couple of days. Oh, thank God. 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Wow, it's been a crazy show, Speedy. It's already an hour in. It's unbelievable how fast this goes. And we do a 3-hour show. Sometimes we go over the 3 hours. We do 3.5, sometimes 4 hours. It's incredible how fast these shows go. And I'm happy to obviously entertain everybody throughout their night. There's nothing going on in sports tonight. There's no hockey. There's no basketball tonight, right? There's no basketball tonight.
I'm not sure.
I don't think there is basketball tonight right now. It's really just baseball. And so you're trying to find something to listen to. You're trying to find something that's going to occupy you. Come and tune in with us. You can go to YouTube right now. Subscribe to us, The Sports Loudmouth. You can go to Spotify, and you can go to Apple Podcasts, whatever shows you missed. Former NBA referee Bill Spooner, who worked 32 years in the NBA, calls Chris Paul one of the biggest a-holes I have ever dealt with as a referee. Spooner adds that Paul comes off as a good guy compared to an intimidating guy like Rasheed Wallace. Draymond Green also called Paul one of the biggest a-holes he's played against, but one of the biggest competitors as well. Well, he also played with him. Paul has had notable beefs with referees like Scott Foster after an incident in 2015 where Paul and his 5-year-old son wouldn't get out of the way when Foster's car was leaving the arena. Paul's teams have lost 13 straight playoff games officiated by Foster. Draymond Green said he likes Scott Foster because he knows how to draw the line with certain players, including Chris Paul. I don't know anything about these referees. I don't know Bill Spooner. I don't know Scott Foster. We've never had him on the show, so I don't know how good of a guy that they are. I don't know how good of a guy Chris Paul is. I've seen him on the State Farm commercials. I've seen enough of that. I mean, if that's what you want to sell as a good guy, maybe Chris Paul is a good guy because I like those commercials. I don't know if he really is, because if anybody knows about those State Farm commercials, LeBron James was offered those commercials, and he said, give it to Chris. I don't have the time. I'm not interested in doing State Farm commercials. So he practically gave his hand-me-downs to Chris Paul, who, by the way, is Chris Paul. Chris Paul is his son Bronny's, I think, godfather. If it's not Bronny, or I think LeBron is Chris Paul's son's godfather. It's one or the other, but they're each other's godfathers for respectable families. I don't know the type of player he is on and off the court. Now, players like, am I going to trust Draymond Green? Am I going to really trust that Draymond Green is telling the truth about Chris Paul? Everybody thinks Draymond Green is an a-hole. Nobody likes Draymond Green, even his own teammates. We've heard Klay Thompson nonchalantly thrown Draymond Green under the bus. We've seen Obviously, Steph Curry this year and Steve Kerr, his own coach, say that Draymond Green needs to shut his mouth. I mean, seriously, he doesn't get along with anybody. So am I going to trust that Draymond Green knows what he's talking about? And I could care less if Draymond Green likes Scott Foster. I could care less, because the only reason why he likes Scott Foster is because he doesn't like Chris Paul. And Chris Paul and Scott Foster don't like each other. I do know that Chris Paul is a great player. He's one of the best point guards I've ever seen in my time of watching basketball. When I compare and contrast some of the point guards in the game of basketball now, there's nobody like Chris Paul. There's nobody. Chris Paul wasn't that go-again scorer that you see Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving or even Jalen Brunson is. He's not that type of player. What I could say about what Chris Paul brings to the game is he's a great passer. He does all the dirty work as a point guard. He's a good rebounder for a guy his size. I've heard so many teammates that we've interviewed with that played with Chris Paul say that he is a great leader and he's great in the locker room. So I don't know where this is coming from, but I do know he's also the voice of the players union. Why would the players pick Chris Paul to speak up for him if they didn't like him? Honestly, why would they take Chris Paul and say, you know what, Chris, you're going to speak for us. You're going to be the face of the players union. Why would they do that? Why? The answer is, I don't know. I can't give you the answer. I'm not Chris Paul's best friend. I don't even know him. And I know players. Have we heard anybody out there in the NBA, players that are respected in the NBA, have we heard LeBron James say anything bad about Chris Paul? Have we heard Dwayne Wade say anything bad about Chris Paul? Have we heard Carmelo Anthony say anything? I know they're his best friends.
Yeah, the wine crew.
Whatever. Have we heard any of his teammates come out? Lob City. Have we heard anything? Doc Rivers loved him. Absolutely loved him. So why haven't we heard from Doc Rivers, who's very well respected by the league and obviously the commissioner and all the owners, as he gets a job every single time he gets fired and fails every single time?
You know, JJ Redick might coach the Lakers, who we also played with.
Whatever. Have we heard anything that have we heard JJ Redick ever say anything bad about Chris Paul? No. Now, obviously, the referees get attacked. They get attacked every single game. We've seen it. How many times have we seen Julius Randle cry to the referees? Mm-hmm. Does the referees like Julius Randle? Probably not. He's probably the most hated Knick because he's always out there complaining and bitching and moaning. Nobody likes complainers. James Harden. Do you think the referees like James Harden? Do you think the referees like Kyrie Irving? They don't. Most people don't. But of course, they're going to make excuses. They're going to find ways to protect those players. Why? I have no idea. I do know this. Chris Paul, on and off the court, could be an asshole. I'm going to say it. He could be. He could be that type of player. Me, as a fan, I have never seen Chris Paul come out and say something that's completely ridiculous. I have not. Even when those anti-Semitic views came out by Kyrie Irving or even LeBron James, backing him up, and Kevin Durant backing Kyrie Irving up, and Kawhi Leonard backing Kyrie Irving up, did you hear Chris Paul say anything? Did you hear that Chris Paul was backing up Kyrie Irving when he came out with that? Never. I never heard him say anything of that magnitude. Have I heard him? He was screwing around with Kim Kardashian when he was still married? Yeah, I heard that. I heard that maybe he is. Maybe his infidelity is not very good. His adultery. He's committed adultery plenty of times. A lot of NBA players have done that. Has anybody watched The Basketball Wives? These guys do that. Kobe Bryant did it. Mm-hmm. And he got attacked. He did it one time and he got attacked. I've heard rumors Patrick Ewing did it. I never asked Charles Oakley, but I'm sure he would admit to it.
We should ask Chris Childs last week. Maybe he would have.
I don't think Chris Childs would ever tell us that.
True.
I don't think he would ever tell us that. I don't know how bad of a person Chris Paul is. I really don't. I know he's one of the greatest point guards of this era, of this time, of this decade. I understand that he is not very liked to, different sponsors and advertisers because he really, the only time I've seen him on Subway.
Yep.
And I've seen him on State Farms. I haven't seen him anywhere else. So maybe there are other organizations that believe that to be true too. I don't know. But am I going to trust Draymond Green? Am I going to trust Scott Foster? And by the way, Draymond Green is just trying to sell his channel. He's trying to sell his podcast. That's why he's bringing up this stuff. So is Gilbert Arenas. Why is Gilbert Arenas speaking about all NBA players in the 90s who was taking steroids? What is he, on drugs? I mean, if I lined up a bunch of NBA players that played in the 90s and asked them that question, they would probably tell me Gilbert Arenas is a complete moron.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And by the way, a lot of these referees are not liked by NBA players.
No.
They're not. I've heard a lot of NBA players attack Bill. I've heard Bill Spooner's name being brought up many, many times. I think Bill Spooner's that old guy, the bald old guy. I think that's him. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But there's a guy that I see all the time on the NBA courts for years being a big prick. All right. He would go out there and you know that he was going to call a foul on a certain player and he didn't care who you were. This is what happens. And if Chris Paul is opening his mouth, Chris Paul is a cocky SOB. He's cocky. He knows how good he is. You think LeBron James doesn't believe he's a king? When everybody's been calling him a king since he left high school? Look at Henrik Lundqvist. I watched his, and by the way, go check out his documentary, Open Heart, on Netflix. Great documentary on Henrik Lundqvist. Sensational. Henrik Lundqvist has been called the king for years. Did he win anything? Did he? It took LeBron James going to Miami to win something.
Yeah, and building a super team.
Felix,
Hernandez.
Felix Hernandez. He was called the king too. Did he ever win a championship? Did he ever play? Did he ever play in a World Series?
Oh, they never made the playoffs. Seattle had the longest playoffs drought for 21 years until they made it 2 years ago.
But he's the king.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I understand that people don't like Chris Paul. I'm not a big LeBron James fan. I respect his game. I respect his game. He's a great player. He really is. I just don't respect his big mouth and what he says on and off the court.
Right. NBA referees, I think, have a different dichotomy when it comes to singling out people, where Scott Foster doing this to Chris Paul and being harsher in a playoff game. That included the NBA Finals when the Suns were up 2-0. Guess who were up? Officiated Game 3. Scott Foster, and the Suns fell apart. They lost 4 straight games, and the Bucks won the championship. And this kind of thing with Spooner too. You wonder why he's singling him out specifically, when I'm sure there's plenty of other a-holes players that have been like that. Now, the ones handling the ball are going to be complaining about fouls generally more than the ones that aren't. But still, in general, like James Harden, like you were saying, has become probably the biggest one. And Keith saying in the comment section, LeBron's the biggest one. Probably LeBron has been that since he went to Miami.
Keith is also saying Boston and Indiana are on tonight, and Keith also say Edmonton and Dallas. By the way, Scoops, you need to definitely post that and make sure that everybody knows the games are going on tonight when you do your scoops and scores. But to get back to the NBA and where they're going with this, in this argument that Chris Paul is an a-hole, there's a lot of guys in the NBA that are a-holes. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys. Right. Kobe Bryant, a lot of people respect his game and respect who he was, the Mamba and everything like that. You don't think he was arguing? You don't think that he pissed people off on the court? You don't think he was saying stuff to the referees? Michael Jordan was the biggest dick. How many times have we heard players say that Michael Jordan was the biggest a-hole on and off the court? So, I mean, Rasheed Wallace, you think he was nice? Ben Wallace, you think he was nice? They're not nice. These guys are cocky players. They're making millions and millions of dollars playing a game that they grew up playing on the schoolyards.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think singling out Chris Paul is really the right move for Spooner to say. He was the biggest a-hole in comparison to all these other guys. He might have been one to referees, but like you were saying, he wasn't to players. He wasn't to coaches. He was bumped around many teams that were trying to grow their image. Like the Hornets were not good. The Clippers were horrible when they traded for him and tried to create that identity. And look at what he's done, leadership relationship-wise with all those teams. Like, clearly he can't be that big of a quote-unquote a-hole to do that. Yet Draymond Green, well, it's to protect Scott Foster, when Draymond Green is the most technical fouls we've seen since he's entered the league and had the most this season. And, I'm going to go protect Scott Foster. You know what? There's coincidence involved in that, Draymond. Scott Foster does not like Chris Paul. A lot of those series he played in the playoffs were against your Golden State Warriors. I'm seeing a little bias there.
I bet you the number one hated player in all of the NBA is Draymond Green. I would put money on it. I don't even know. But if I had a survey right now, Draymond Green would be the worst and probably the most hated player in all of the NBA. From referees to players to coaches. Nobody likes Draymond Green. They respect his game. How could you not respect his game? But to like him, I couldn't see anybody stick up for Draymond Green and say, "Oh, he's a good guy." He's not. And by the way, what is it? What is Fish saying? I double checked. What is this right now? I don't know. But up here on the comments, Speedy, you should be reading it.
ESPN, I can't see it. It's a full screen.
Well, all right. ESPN Baxter Holmes reports that a mother named Tamara McCray is suing LaMelo Ball for hitting her 11-year-old son with his car. This happened at the Hornets fan-focused event at the beginning of the season in Charlotte. The mother said her son, Angel, was one of the many fans that approached Ball's car while it was stopped at a red light. She said when the light turned green, Ball drove in a reckless manner and struck her son severely injuring him, and then was speeding and fleeing away from the scene. Ball refused to give any of these fans autographs even after the incident when the kid was hospitalized. McCray is seeking damages of over $25,000 for the incident. The Ball family are always in the tabloids. And I watched their show. I used to watch it on Facebook. They're a very interesting family. Okay. LeVar is the most interesting one because for years, LeVar Ball couldn't get out of the limelight. He was the face of LaMelo, LiAngelo, and Lonzo. He was everything to their family. He created the Ball brand. It didn't work out. I think it went out of business after the first year. Nobody was buying their sneakers. Nobody was buying their shirts, their shorts, or anything that they were selling. LaMelo Ball is the best player and the best of that family. LiAngelo Ball has tried out for how many NBA teams? 6 or 7, never made any of those teams. Even tried out for both his brothers' teams. Tried out, I think, for Chicago and tried out for Charlotte and played for Charlotte for a little while, and then he dropped him. He wasn't good enough. LaMelo Ball is a sensational player if he could stay healthy. And whenever I see LaMelo Ball now, he's hanging out with a different prostitute or hanging out with a different Instagram girl. That's all I see him, driving his fancy cars. That's all I see. Now, I don't know what happened with this story. Now, reading the story, this is disgusting. When kids are coming up to your car and asking for your autograph, you step out. You're a superstar player. You're a face of the Charlotte Hornets. You're really the franchise player. You get out of your car. It doesn't matter where you are. The police are going to hold up traffic, and you sign autographs. You sign jerseys. You sign hats. You sign whatever the hell they have. You want to sign a woman's breast? Sign their breast. You're LaMelo Ball. But you know what you do? You don't give a crap about the fans. You don't give a crap about anybody else. You just care about yourself. And what you do is you speed away and you run over a kid's foot. $25,000. I'd be asking for $1 million. The kid is hospitalized because of this incident. And he knew about this. He knew about this. He could have went to the hospital and apologized. He could have signed jerseys, hats, sent $10,000 to the family, donated money to the family. It probably doesn't have any money.
Right.
He could have done that. That would have been the smartest thing for LaMelo Ball to do. But instead, he didn't give a crap about the fan. He didn't give a crap about the position that he put himself in. You know what he cares about? He cares about himself. He cares about the girls that he's sleeping with. He cares about the cars that he's driving and how many homes he's buying because of real estate or real estate that his father wants to buy. LeVar Ball, you would have thought, taught his sons how to be men. He speaks about that all the time. My son are men. I raised them to be men. From babies to teens to men now. All my sons respect women. All my sons respect who they are as players. I raised them to do that. To me, when you hear this story, it only shows me one thing. The Ball family are a bunch of a-holes. They don't give a crap about anybody but their damn selves. And you look at guys like, Lonzo Ball, who was complaining when the Lakers decided to trade him, and he's been bouncing around from team to team to team. Guess what? Why don't you stay healthy? Why don't you stay healthy? You haven't played basketball for almost 2 years. And everybody can't wait to see you. And you made all that money. All these guys do is make money. From Lonzo Ball to LaMelo Ball, all they do is make money, and they complain about things. All of them do it. Oh, I'm this. My sons are this. My sons are that. LeVar coming out and saying he could have beaten Michael Jordan one-on-one. I mean, come on, guys. Do you believe any nonsense that comes out of these guys' mouths? And LaMelo Ball did not do the right thing here. If I knew, and he knew that this kid was hospitalized, and knowing that this was going to come out one way or another, and the press loves to write stories like this. They love it. They love to attack these players like this. Knowing that, and that you were the center of attention, and many, many different people saw you run over that kid's foot, why wouldn't you go to the hospital, go to the house, spend time, maybe go to the kid's birthday party, hang out with the kid? That's what I would have done. Signed all his friends, his family. Make sure that you step in and you show that you were wrong for what you did.
Definitely lack of gratitude there. And it is so easily avoidable too when you look at all the time that NBA players have in the off season, all this thing you see them out in clubs all the time and out at parties. You can't go out of your way to help out a kid. I mean, again, it's one thing. These kids are running up to you signing autographs. If there were like adults doing that, maybe it's a little different, but a kid, like these are your role models. Like in Charlotte, like they don't have a lot of like great sports right now. The Panthers are horrible. The Hornets are a rebuilding team right now, but you have a guy like LaMelo Ball that's played really well when he is healthy. He got paid in his third year in the league because of how well he played. Like that's somebody that all these basketball fans are going to be looking up to right now. And it's definitely a bad look when you don't go back. Now, I don't know what he was doing in the moment, but it seemed like it was a fan thing. So it didn't seem like an emergency. Like if you had to leave for emergency, okay, that's one thing. But you still don't, after the fact, realize you hit a kid and then do nothing about it. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, Keith says that Lonzo Ball isn't a bad guy. Look at the headlines right over here. Lonzo Ball savagely wishes ill on Hawks after number 1 pick win.
What?
That's what the story is right here. You're going to tell me that Lonzo Ball is a good guy? Just think about that. Lonzo Ball, this is a story. This is a new story. Happened May 23rd, 2024, Keith. You think he's a nice guy? Come on, man. You're going to think that's nice? You wish ill will to the number 1 pick for the Hawks?
What?
Why?
Players should support players. Like, what is this? Come on.
I know, Keith, you don't see these stories. I'm reading the story. I looked up as soon as you posted up, Lonzo Ball isn't a bad guy. The Ball family, they were raised wrong. They were raised with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the Ball family. These kids were raised to do whatever they wanted. Their mother seems like a sweet woman. She had that stroke.
Right.
She seems like a very nice woman. But the person that really raised those boys is their father. Mm-hmm. And we all know what their father's all about. He's all about money. He's all about promoting his sons and putting his sons on top of the world as they're the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. They're not. LaMelo Ball, as good of a player as he is, and I'm going to tell you this, he should have not won Rookie of the Year that year. Emmanuel Quigley should have won Rookie of the Year that year. Because LaMelo Ball only played 52 games. Quigley played all 82 games. Almost all 82 games that year. And Quigley just, if you really look at the numbers, did LaMelo Ball have that much better numbers than Quigley? And usually you have to play a certain amount of games to win, to be even put up as a Rookie of the Year or an MVP candidate.
And there was also Anthony Edwards, too.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, too. I thought Anthony Edwards had a better season than he did, too.
Great.
But LaMelo Ball won Rookie of the Year because of who he is, because of his name. And that's the problem. I'm going to tell you this right now. When you hear this story, it only tells me one thing about the family. It only tells me one thing about who he is as a person, that he's just, you can't respect a man like that. And you can't respect a person that, who's putting the money in your pockets? Yes, the owners are putting money in your pockets. How are the owners making that money? Through, I don't know, jersey sales. I don't know, through money sales, endorsements, TV deals. Who's paying to see those, pay for those players to be seen? The fans. The fans are putting, who's paying to go to the games? The fans are. So you do whatever it takes to make sure the fans are happy with you and the organization.
And Keith also says LaMelo treated those kids really badly, and that kid was a huge fan. Yeah, he probably shouldn't be anymore.
No, he probably isn't. All right. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking to our friend Golden State Warriors play-by-play broadcaster Tim Roye. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
As promised, as always, there is an update with Tommy Scoops on the Loudmouth Sports Minute. And starting off right now with college sports. The NCAA and its 5 power conferences agreed to pay athletes. The NCAA and its leagues are planning to move forward with an agreement that will allow schools to pay players directly for the first time in its 100-plus year history. Over in the NBA, the Pelicans are firing the power forward Zion Williamson's athletic trainer, Shane Austin. After Williamson's healthiest season of his career so far, the team has decided to move on from Austin. And finally, DeJounte Murray is blasted social media for trade rumors. Murray also weeks back shot down another trade rumor speculating his exit from the Atlanta Hawks. Now it's going to be time for Scoops and Scores, where right now in the MLB, Toronto has a 3-1 lead over Detroit, with Baltimore and Chicago currently having a 1-1 lead right now. Over in the NBA right now, Indiana has a 23-20 lead over Boston, and over in the NHL right now, Edmonton and Dallas have just started right now. That is currently all the time I have for you guys right now. We'll be back for an update, and here is your boys with the Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m., which will be moved to Tuesdays and Thursdays next week. Every 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out your local listings for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've had him on the show before, and we're very excited to have him on again. He's not busy right now because the NBA season for the Golden State Warriors is over, but he's here, and he's smiling. We are now talking to Golden State Warriors play-by-play broadcaster Tim Roye. Timmy, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Just trying to go get through the first stages of the off season, and it's a little weird to have that much time off right now, to be honest with you. But on the whole, it's going well. Things are trending in the right direction, as they say.
Well, we can only hope it's trending in the right direction for your Golden State Warriors, because there's somebody that likes to speak on and off the court, and he's speaking a lot on his podcast, Draymond Green, who is now taking shots at Chris Paul. He played with Chris Paul. He's still playing. I think Chris Paul is still a part of the Golden State Warriors as we speak. Could you please answer my question with this? Why is Draymond Green throwing people under the bus? Why is Draymond Green even speaking right now after the season the Golden State Warriors had?
Well, he's got a podcast, so he's got time to fill. So there's that. But Draymond's always been someone who spoke his mind, and he's not shy about his opinions. And with Draymond, the living sort of on the edge, the fire that he brings, that all comes from his belief that, that he's going to be right most of the time. And that translates to an incredible basketball player when you add his basketball acumen. And so you have to kind of live with some of the stuff that Draymond does. Now, this year was, on the court, he had some issues. I think that he got through them well. I think in the second half of the year, we saw Draymond with the fire, but not going over the edge. But as far as his podcast, it's a free country. He can say whatever he wants. I don't think any of the players take super exception to it because they know Draymond. They know he's going to be outspoken. They know he's going to have an opinion about everything. And to be honest with you, I kind of like Draymond. I think he's a really intelligent man, both on and off the floor. And a lot of the things he says are right. Now, granted, with the podcast and TNT, he's paid to have an opinion. So I think that's what he's making sure that his podcast, his name, his business, if you will, is out there in the forefront.
My question to you then is, you've been around Chris Paul this season. Do you think Chris Paul is an a-hole like everybody is saying?
Well, I think that, the officials have never been super fond of players that have opinions. But every action I've had with Chris has been great. He's been super with me. Even as an opponent player, I found something in the bottom of a box, something I should have thrown away years ago. It was an article about him in college and stuff like that. So I brought it to him one night, and I said, "Hey, if you want it, you can keep it." He goes, "Oh no, I got about 3 copies back home. Mom didn't throw away anything." So okay. So every action I've had with him has been very positive, and a real pleasure to have the ability to talk about him and to broadcast his games this year, to watch how smart he is as a player. With Draymond and Chris Paul, you got 2 guys that I think, very easily could be future NBA head coaches.
So Draymond Green, the national media perspective was that a lot of the fans were starting to turn on him, even though the fans always supported him, even amidst all those other, what you call dirty plays over the years. Is that the vibe you're getting with a lot of the fans with the Warriors, or are they still supporting him that same way?
Well, with the Warrior fan base, I think everybody, supports Draymond. And again, I go back to that fire that drives him, okay? Without that fire, the Warriors probably don't make 5 NBA finals in a row. They probably don't win their first NBA championship since 1975, and then win 3 other ones. And, he has that little extra something that, certain players have. We had Steven Jackson as a Warrior for a while, and he had a little bit of that too. But I think that, for Draymond, it translated to winning. And to me, that's what this is all about. I remember when he first started playing, people were going, "How can they play him? He can't shoot." I said, just watch how he plays. Watch what he does to translate to winning basketball. And so I think, Draymond, like everybody else, is a human being. He's going to make mistakes. He's never, had a situation where, he's been in trouble with the law per se. So I think in this case, I think a lot of the fans around the league, they're kind of happy to see, Draymond have bad moments because, quite frankly, I think a lot of them were tired of seeing the Warriors come in and beat them. So I think there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of winning fatigue that we all have. We've all seen it. We saw with the Patriots. We saw with maybe the Yankees over the years with other teams. So it's all part of it. It's all part of it, and it's all part of this particular dynasty, which had a remarkable run. When you consider that we will have our 6th different champion in the last 6 years this year, that tells you, to me, that just puts an exclamation point on the Warriors run, because making the finals 5 years in a row, that's really, really hard.
Tim, you have an unrestricted free agent that is going to be a free agent this year, and that is Klay Thompson. He's coming off a $189 million contract, and there are quite a few teams that might be interested in Klay Thompson. I've heard that Steph Curry would like Klay Thompson to come back. We've heard Draymond Green, in layman's terms, say that he would like Klay Thompson to come back. What are your thoughts? Do you think Klay Thompson re-signs with the Golden State Warriors? Do you think he retires or maybe heads to LA, which a lot of people have predicted over the last couple of years, going to play for his father's old team?
Well, I think that, there's a lot going on there with Clay. I think, he's a free agent. He's got to think about, the one thing that he can, when he's talking about his relationship with the Warriors, that it's a special one. And if those three were to go through and play their entire careers with the Warriors and retire, even Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker in the modern era didn't do that. Parker spent a year in Charlotte. He spent his last year in Charlotte. And so if they could retire as Warriors, I think that would be really, really special. And I have no problem with Klay Thompson making money. He had a really good year this year. He was a little more streaky, I think, than he would like. He handled coming off the bench like a pro. I think, still has a lot more really good basketball to give. And to me, the argument about paying players is this. If you don't pay these three guys, Steph, Clay, and Dre, then who are you going to pay? Because these three guys have helped put this franchise on the map. When I first started covering the Warriors, we would go, and this is back when newspapers, remember those things? I still get one on Sunday, but we would come into town, and I swear this was the headline about half the time my first 10, 15 years of the Warriors was woeful Warriors meet insert the home team, right? Okay. And so, the Warriors are now one of the top 10 sporting brands in the world, not just in basketball, not just in the NBA, in the world. And our ownership has had a lot to do with that, but also, having these guys put the Warriors on the map and make them a worldwide brand with their winning, I think you can't deny that. That's just part of it. It may not make as much, basketball sense 4 years down the road, but I still think that if they can make the right couple of moves, they still might have one more run left in them because, if you look at their record this year, they had a lot of games that got away from them after they had established a decent lead. And I think that can be fixed. If you're getting blown out all the time and you're overmatched all the time, that can be fixed. But they had some really competitive games with the best teams in the league. Their record against them didn't turn out too good, but I think a lot of those came down to plays in the fourth quarter or just taking their foot off the gas. And I think they need one more spark type of player to help them through that.
So let's say Klay Thompson does go to free agency. We've seen a lot of these younger players now get drafted, and the Warriors, either they can't hold on to them or they end up trading away. Jordan Poole is eventually supposed to be the new Klay Thompson. And
Wiseman.
That fell through. So any players that stood out to you this season that maybe not is going to be Klay Thompson right away, but maybe in a combined production role that you think could make a difference?
Well, I think, they did really well in the draft last year. Brandon Podziemski just knows how to play, and he is a smart guy who understands who he is and how he can translate that to winning. So I think they found a nice piece there that's going to get better and better as his shot gets better and as his confidence in that shot gets better. Trace Jackson Davis is an NBA big man. He was a 4-year player. Nobody wanted to give him a 2-year contract. The Warriors said, yeah, sure, we'll do this. And again, he's turned out to be a guy that's going to be in the NBA for a long time. So you got these two guys. They're not star players right now, but they're players that can help you. Jonathan Kuminga, I think, is starting. You can start to see, the lights come on because he didn't play a lot of basketball before he got to the States. He was, fast-tracked his way to the NBA without a lot of experience. And I think now he's figuring out that he can score, he can take a lot of shots if he wants, but, how does he contribute to winning? And I think when Jonathan Kuminga, with his ability, figures all that out and starts contributing to winning, then you're really going to have a player there. And the other guy I should mention, who if he can just kind of accelerate his thought process and everything else, is Moses Moody, because he's lock solid. He's very rarely in the wrong spot on the floor, and he understands. He's the NBA player that understands time, foul situation, clock, and so he's another guy could be a nice little role piece for them in the future.
We are talking to Golden State Warriors play-by-play broadcaster Tim Roye. He's been the broadcaster for the Golden State Warriors for over 29 years. Fantastic voice. If you don't listen to the Golden State Warriors, you must listen to Tim when he goes on live every single year, and even in the playoffs. Fantastic, fantastic voice and a great face for the Golden State Warriors organization. You know, one guy that really stands out to me is Kenny Atkinson. I love the guy. He was the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He got screwed out of that because of Kyrie Irving. And now he's the assistant coach right now for the Golden State Warriors. He's been there for a couple of years, been a part of one of those championships. So he understands what it is to win a championship. When you look at him, I am very surprised he hasn't gotten another job. He's been Steve Kerr's right-hand man. Is there a reason why you think, or maybe you have some answers of why Kenny Atkinson hasn't gotten another job?
Well, I think he had another job in Charlotte and then stepped back away from that because he realized he's also in a really, the thing we always forget about those kind of situations is family life. He's got kids, I believe, that are in high school right now. So, do you move your family 3,000 miles away? But he's well respected, and every job that's come open this year, just about every one, he's been mentioned as a possible candidate, and he will be a head coach of the league again this year. I love Kenny. He's a great guy, and he loves the game, and he just has great stories. He told us a story, and actually I stole it because he said he was on a summer league, might have been NBA TV broadcast after the Warriors won in 22, and he said he came into the team meeting before Game 4 in Boston. They're down 2-1 to the Celtics. And, he goes, I'm really nervous. I'm really, God, we can't go down 3-1. He's all like hyped up about it. And he gets in the meeting room and he says, Steph and Clay and Draymond, we're all very calm. Yeah, we can fix that. We'll take care of that. We need to do this more. And he goes, I walk out of the room and I go, they're all calm and collected. They really believe they're going to walk in here and walk into Boston, win Game 4, go back home with home court again. And that's exactly what they did. Steph had a huge game, but he was amazed, and that's part of the, once you've been through it a few times, you kind of calm the nerves down and know that, if you do your job, it's going to be okay. But Kenny's a really smart basketball coach. And I remember when the Warriors would play that Brooklyn Nets team before they tried to make it a super team, you would go into Brooklyn and that team gave no quarter. They played hard. They played hard every night. And Kenny had a lot to do with that.
So I was going to ask about some of these other coaches that have gotten fired recently. It seems like the NBA is like bumping around different jobs, and obviously the Cavs fired their coach recently. And we saw the Suns do that with Monty Williams last year. Do you think these coaches are just like they haven't been able to keep their jobs in the NBA the same way Steve Kerr has? And is it a testament to how Steve Kerr connects to the players?
Connects with players, connects with ownership, connects with everybody. His communication skills are unbelievable. They're off the charts. But I think in a whole, we're at a very, right now, culture right now. What's the latest on TikTok? Let's go there and watch for 10 seconds. And so when your 5-year plan gets to year 3 and it's not where the owners think it should be, then a coach gets fired. So I think you see it in the NBA, you see it all around sports. I'm a little surprised at a couple of the firings. Simply because, now we're getting coaches who are fired for having pretty good records, or coaches getting fired because they can't make chicken salad out of what. So it's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to win. It's hard to stay on top. It's hard, especially on the Western Conference, which has been so good for so long. But it's a really hard thing, and I think one of the things that you see with a lot of the long-term coaches is that when they have great success in their career, that builds up a carte blanche for them. That builds up a little cachet with the ownership so that when they have a down year or two, they tend to stick with that coach. And I think we're seeing that with Steve. We're seeing that with, obviously with Greg Popovich. We saw it with Jerry Sloan and the great run he had in Utah. So yeah, but it's a little disconcerting for me because, I've seen some guys I think are pretty good coaches get fired in the last few years, and to me, for the reasons weren't all that great.
Tim, the way this team is constructed, if Klay Thompson does come back, you have Draymond Green, you have Steph Curry, and you have Klay Thompson. You have a bunch of young guys, but you're still wondering if they're going to be superstars. You're still trying to figure that out. But the way the team is constructed, they're not a championship team. Do you see, if they bring Klay Thompson back, do you see them making a big move? And if they do make a big move, who would you think would fit very, very well with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green for this coming season?
That's $1 million question. It's way above my pay grade, but I think if you bring Klay back and then you got your core trio there, you have to get better. You have to get better. There's no way around it. You know, the West has a whole bunch of good young teams, and we haven't even, mentioned the fact that the West has Houston. They're going to get better. Ime Udoka's a good coach. You got Memphis. They get healthy for next year. They're going to be better. And neither of those teams made the play-in. So you have to get better, I think, if you're the Warriors this year. So, yeah, I think they're going to try to make some moves. And, you've got contract situations with Gary Payton and Chris Paul coming up, along with Klay Thompson, some deadlines they have to meet in the month of June. But, yeah, I think they're going to explore all the options. And hopefully, they can come away with some of the moves they made, like in the past, like the incredibly convoluted trade they made to get Andre Iguodala and the fact that they had everything set up, ready to go. So when KD became a free agent, they had the moves they needed to make to fit him under the cap. So they've done this before, and hopefully they can do it again, because I still think they have the window's closing, obviously. Father Time's the only undefeated thing in sports. But I still think they've got a shot if they can make the right moves.
There's one player that I've watched this year on the Knicks that is going to be available, and he's a guy that gives them size. They need size. Hartenstein would be a great fit for the Golden State Warriors. Now, I don't know how much he's going to be, what he's going to be asking for. He probably wants to stay with the Knicks, but if he doesn't stay with the Knicks, Golden State needs a guy that could, be that gritty player. He's a rebounder. He's a good offensive, defensive rebounder. He could put the ball in the net. He's averaged, about 9-10 points a game. He's not that, peanut butter and jelly move that you want that's going to just mash it together and make a championship team. But he's a piece that you can build around with some of the talent that they have around him. What are your thoughts to bringing in somebody like Hartenstein?
Well, technically I work for the Warriors, so I can't talk about an employee of another team because he's still under contract. I don't want to get believe me, if we got hit with a tampering fine, it would come out of my paycheck, and I don't make enough.
I got you.
But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this about Hartenstein. I can't talk about him as a player, though. I can say this. He is a guy that I love to watch, because he just shows that if you stay with the course and find a team where you're a fit. I think there are a lot of players like Hartenstein out there in our league that haven't found success yet. We put him on the right team that says, okay, we're not going to worry about what he can't do. Let's see what he can do for us. And he fits in with how they play and what they do. And he's, again, these guys, you got to find them if you're going to try to win. You got to find guys that don't care about scoring. You got to find guys that don't care. They don't have the ball in their hands, and they still can be guys that make plays. And that's what Hartenstein does. In fact, the Warriors have had one of those guys for years in Kevon Looney. Doesn't care how many points he scores. Doesn't care if he touches the ball or not. He's going to go out and do what he has to do to help the team win. And I think that's what Hartenstein does for the Knicks.
So what are your impressions of some of these other Western Conference teams, these younger teams in the NBA playoffs so far this year?
Terrifying. Minnesota is good, and everybody kind of scratched their head when they traded for Rudy Gobert. You could argue if you think that was too much of a price tag, but if it gets into the NBA Finals, it's worth everything. And so, and Anthony Edwards is the real deal. He's going to be a pain in the for years to come in our league, and he can really play. I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a great little story. The Warriors had the number 2 pick that year, and they brought in Edwards for a workout. And Edwards relayed the story to us when the Timberwolves came to the Bay this year. After the workout, he goes, I thought I had a good workout. And we sit down, we're talking to Steve Kerr, and Steve Kerr looks at him and goes, you're not working hard enough. You're not bringing it hard enough. And I said, this is not acceptable. You've got to work harder if you want to be a star in this league. And Edwards says he was driving back to the hotel with his trainer going, okay, we have to set up some workouts here. We've got to figure out how to, do this better, do this harder, do this quicker. And so it was something that he took to heart, and it's helped him in his basketball journey. Unfortunately, it doesn't help the Warriors, but he's going to be really good for years to come. And I have to say, I think Karl Anthony Towns has taken a step forward. He's really making plays to help them win games. Oklahoma City, they're going to be trouble for years to come. Jay Williams out of Santa Clara is I think, a stud. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the toughest covers in the league, and he's going to be in the MVP vote, I think, in the next few years. And I love the effort of Lou Dort. I love that kid, watching him work hard every night. So, yeah, there's a lot of great young teams in the West. Sacramento's still young. They can still figure it out. Memphis, has Ja. There's a lot of talent in the West. And, there's a lot of the veterans in the West, but these young teams are going to be really difficult to deal with for years.
As everybody knows, we are talking to the Golden State Warriors play-by-play broadcaster, Tim Roye. My last question for you is, when you watch Jalen Brunson this year, and he was unbelievable, the development, what he's turned into. I mean, he was a second-round draft pick. Dallas gave up on him, decided not to give him that 3-year, $55 million extension. He signs with the Knicks. Everybody was attacking that signing, saying, "Oh, you're going to give that kind of money to a player that really has not really been a proven player. You're going to regret it." And he's really taking that expectation and taking it to a whole nother level. This guy was a second-team All-NBA player this year, arguably the best point guard in the Eastern Conference all season long. What were your thoughts to the development? Did you see this coming with Jalen Brunson?
I saw a little bit of it because Coach Tibbs realized, right away that Brunson's maybe his best offense is going one-on-one, and breaking his guy down. And so he surrounded him with guys who can shoot some threes and just guys that bring it every night. We had Dante DiVincenzo for a year. I love that kid. Works hard, comes out, plays hard every night. Hart, we know, that was a steal for them to get Hart. So I really thought his development, where Brunson really took off for me, was when Randall went down. I thought when Randall went down, I thought, okay, there goes, that they're going to have to wait till the following year to load up. But he did such a good job putting that team on his back. And, he's really, I think, a star. And, again, very difficult to guard, whether or not you have the first half of the season rules or the second half of the season rules. Just incredibly hard to guard. And I think if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what they can do when they have Randall, because then, now you've got another guy that the other team has to worry about, talk about their shoot around in the mornings. And so I think, and you get Robinson back, all those guys, then I think they could be a real pain in the butt for the teams in the East. And, wouldn't it be nice to see them give Boston a run for their money some year?
My last question, your favorite games you've broadcasted this year, if you had to choose.
Oh, wow. This year. This was kind of a tough year for me. We had some stuff going on the home front. I won't get into the details, but I was a little distracted with that. But this year, oh, wow. It's hard to think about what games. It was all, the Warrior season this year was so, move ahead to, it's like playing a game with your kids on the board game where you go ahead 2 places and get moved back 2 places, go ahead 2 places, come back 2 places. So we didn't have a lot of those incredible games. I will say we had a really good game, probably early mid-season in Oklahoma City, that went down to a ruling at the end as to whether or not Draymond Green was guilty of offensive interference, and he wasn't. And the Warriors won by 1 point. That was a spectacular game because you had the Warriors with their veteran core and still being able to show those youngsters in that great core of Oklahoma City a couple of tricks. That's one that stands out. But I've been so blessed. I've been able to work so many different sports and leagues, and in this run, I've had so many great games. It's really hard to keep track of the ones that you say are your favorites. I've been blessed to watch these guys play.
We really appreciate you. Keep up the good work. We hope to speak to you before the season. If you're not too busy, we'd love to get you on and maybe another one of your friends who we just interviewed last week, Speedy. You know what I'm talking about. One of his friends.
Mr. Hasseltine, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Eric Hasseltine, when I was in Sacramento doing Kings games and doing a talk show there, Eric Hasseltine was my update guy. He would come on and do our updates. So there you go. Yep.
We'd love to get you and Hasseltine on the show and figure out who knows more a little bit about their teams and have a little trivia contest with one another.
Oh, that'd be nice. Okay.
Yeah, that would be fun. We'll work on that. I would love to get both of you on at the same time, but we really appreciate the time. Enjoy your off season, and I'm looking forward to listening to you more when the season starts for the Golden State Warriors, bud.
I enjoyed the conversation, guys. Have a great night.
Tim Roye, ladies and gentlemen, fantastic. He is a great, great personality. Knows his basketball, as we all know. Golden State Warriors, he still believes they still have a window. I don't. I think their window is closed. But, hey, you got to have that belief. And they still have Steph Curry there. And as long as Steph Curry is there, he's going to give them a chance to win every single year. Everybody knows how I feel about him. I didn't want to throw him under the bus when Timmy was on. So everybody knows everybody knows how I feel about the good old Steph Curry. But there's another guy I have some interesting conversations with right now. LeBron James called out the NBA for only allowing coaches to have two coaches challenge in a game. LeBron was referencing game one of the Western Conference Finals, saying it was ridiculous that the Mavericks had no challenges left after the end of the third quarter. There was also a controversial offensive basket interference call against the Timberwolves with the game tied and just over a minute to play. He added that coaches shouldn't be penalized for noting officials' mistakes later in the games. There is a belief the NBA could adopt the NFL's method, where coaches get two challenges but are rewarded a third if they get them both right. LeBron has been critical of the NBA referees and the replay center all playoff long, both against the Lakers and other teams. Of course, LeBron James has his own thoughts to what is going on with the NBA. All right. My thoughts to this whole situation with LeBron James and the controversial thoughts of what is going on with these, obviously interference calls and things that should be allowed when it comes to challenges. I believe that every team should be able to have a challenge every single quarter. I believe that if you don't use it in the quarter, you don't get it back. You have one challenge every single quarter. If you don't agree with the call, you don't agree if it bangs off somebody's hands, his toes, his feet, his knees, whatever. There should be a challenge every single quarter. Now, LeBron James always has his own thoughts. He always sticks his 2 cents into a conversation of the way the rules are being played by the NBA or the way the NBA should be called, not only by the referees, but by the players and by the coaches. To me, when you look at the way the NBA is played, and there's a lot of questions to some of these new rules. I mean, everybody double dribbles. Every single player double dribbles. James Harden, LeBron James, even Jalen Brunson throughout the season. I could say that he's had 3-4 steps to the hole and they don't call it. How many times have I called Julius Randle stepping and he should be called for a double dribble? And nobody calls it a double dribble anymore. Nobody, they call it carrying, walking, whatever the hell they call it. The fact is, LeBron James isn't wrong. But LeBron James shouldn't be the one that's speaking. Every single player, the players' union should be speaking, not LeBron James. He's not the leader of the players' union. Chris Paul is. Chris Paul should be speaking up on these factors. Now, I do believe that during the game, these challenges slow the game down. It slows the game down. I watched the Knicks game, and I think it was against the 76ers. It took the referees really almost 10 minutes to figure out if it banged off of somebody's hands, okay? When it was right there, right straight in your face when you look at the cameras that it banged off of somebody's hands. But, it took the referees because it was in Philadelphia. And of course, the fans would have had their heads cut off if they didn't look at it. And that's the problem right now with the NBA. Every single one of these players are prima donnas. Every one of these players cry about everything. And LeBron James and James Harden, Kyrie Irving, all these guys are really the league's most astonishing pain in the butts. And again, these rules, these play calling and everything, the NBA is so easy to me when it comes to winning a championship. If you have the best player on the court, you have the best chance of winning a championship. In baseball, you can have the best players. Look at the Dodgers. Look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the best team every single year. Do they win the championship every single year? Last year, they had the best and most talented team. So did the Braves. You could argue that the Braves and the Dodgers had the most talent in all of the MLB last year. Did they win the championship? Did they even play in the World Series? The answer, no. In hockey, right now, who are the two best teams throughout this season? The Rangers, that are still there. And in the Western Conference, Dallas, they're still there. I'm going to tell you this right now. One of those teams are not making the finals. They're not. Dallas and the Rangers are not making the finals. You can book that. You can sell that. You can bow it up, really up. And then you want to, if it's a present, you want to wrap it. You want to stick it in a box. Do that. That both teams are not making the finals. It doesn't happen. And in football, Kansas City was not the best team in the AFC last year. They weren't. They were not the best team in the AFC. They actually had their hardest way to the Super Bowl. They played away games in every one of those every one of those playoff games. And it was the first time I could remember Patrick Mahomes had to play 3 games to go to the Super Bowl. It's not easy to be the best team and to go all the way to a championship and win a championship. But in basketball, it is. And that's why the NBA needs to figure this out. I don't think these rules should be implicated into the game, but if you're going to implicate it, every single quarter, you should have a challenge. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's simple. You don't gain it back. You get one challenge every single quarter. It makes a lot of sense. And LeBron James sitting there and making up and trying to figure out ways that the league's going to get better or the rules need to be changed. Shame on him. He's wrong about that. LeBron James, I understand he speaks for the league. He speaks for the players. He speaks for the growth of the league. Did Michael Jordan do that? Did Michael Jordan do that? Did Kobe Bryant ever do that? No, they never did. Did you ever hear Tim Duncan say, hey, you know what? You need to change the rules here because it sounds better. It makes sense. It'll make the game better. No. Why is LeBron James doing it? He's the coach. He's the GM. He's going to be the Lakers owner soon. It seems like that's what's going to happen. As we all know, JJ Redick's going to be a new coach, and he's going to be a first-time coach for the Lakers. Why? Because of LeBron James.
Yeah, there's enough judgment calls in basketball where I don't think you need to try to magnify it. Oh, you need this many more challenges than that. Yeah, maybe 2 is excessively low with how many possessions.
1 a quarter. That makes sense. You don't get it back. If you don't use it, you don't get it back. So you got to use it. And yes, it's going to slow the game down. But guess what? Nobody's going to bitch. Nobody's going to complain. That's my opinion here. Give them, I believe every team has a challenge every single quarter. You use it, you lose it. And by the way, you are allowed to challenge a call after 2 minutes left of each, the second quarter and the final quarter. It's not allowed in the NBA right now. You should be allowed to do that.
Right.
If you want to use your challenge with 1 minute left because you feel that it banged off of somebody's knee, leg, or you think there was a foul and it wasn't called, then so do it. You should be able to do that.
Yeah, I like that, especially for the last 2 minutes of the game too. I think that makes a lot of sense. You should have a universal type thing like the NFL does, that everything could be reviewed at that point, and you should be able to instigate that kind of contact. We've seen the NFL do that kind of thing too, and a lot of coaches do that kind of thing where they don't have a challenge. That kind of thing should be rewarded in the NBA that same way in the last 2 minutes. But there's going to be enough questionable contact all throughout the game. basketball in comparison to other sports is a lot harder to be able to make the kind of contact as a good defender because you're just going to get called for a foul. You want to be able to jump and you create defense on the perimeter with shot fakes. Like in hockey, you could hit, you make physical hits contact wise. Football, you obviously you have to tackle. So there's different leeways of it that you get in comparison to basketball. And that's why I don't think LeBron can just say, oh, these coaches should have like 10 challenges a game. No, you get called for a foul. You're going to whine about it anyway. Like you might just get that benefit later. And these makeup calls that these referees claim that they have, I don't think there's enough of that to be able to do that in basketball the same way in comparison to football and in hockey. Now, there's more possessions, there's more plays in football. You're going to want to say that kind of thing compared to basketball, but still, the pace of basketball is fast enough where teams are shooting the ball at like 10 seconds, 15 seconds into the shot clock most of the time. And that kind of thing, I don't think you could say, all right, coaches should have 10 challenges a game because of that.
Yeah. And again, when you look at the league and you look at the transitional league, they're always trying to bring in new rules and benefit where the players are going to get the calls that they want and the coaches are going to be able to cry about this and cry about that. Look at Rick Carlisle. Look what happened in the Knicks series. He said there were 78 calls. 78 calls missed. I don't know if there were 78 calls missed, but I remember what the two games that he was complaining about. I would say there was about 20 or 15 calls that should have been called against the Knicks. It wasn't. It didn't work out that way. Did it work out for them right now in this series? Absolutely. They're playing against Boston, not the New York Knicks. So are you complaining about that? Not at all. Again, when you look at the league and you look at where the league is going, it's all about the players now. The players are the coaches. The players are the owners. If they say something and they don't like something, if they come up with something with the players union, with Chris Paul, or whoever's running that players union, they're going to get what they want. Why? Because Adam Silver is all about the players. As long as they're bringing in money, as long as they're bringing in advertisements and all that other stuff, that's all he cares about. Fish, your thoughts?
You know, Silver has shown to be a pretty savvy businessman, and I think it's pretty important. It's pretty important to realize this guy was schooled under Stern for many years. He was his understudy. He was his handpicked successor. I would say he's not as ruthless as Stern was in some ways. You know, Stern was pretty, secretive with some of the stuff he did. But, Silver's, I mean, look, you don't even have to go back a few years with all the stuff that happened with China, with LeBron, Daryl Morey. It's pretty funny how those things went away kind of quickly because we got to do business with China. It's all about the almighty dollar. I think you're seeing, especially now with all these new rights deals to the streamers we talked about last time or recently. Silver knows what he's doing, man. And, you can say that he's responsible.
You think
for
that
some
he's
of this.
doing the right thing for the NBA? You think he's doing the right thing for growing the product by the way he lets the players run the league? I don't think there's any league that allows that. You see the NFL, you see NFL players running their league. Not at all. Patrick Mahomes don't run the league. Now, the league loves Patrick Mahomes, and they want him to be in the Super Bowl. And obviously, with the Taylor Swift thing, that was a big story for them. That's what they were promoting all season long. But honestly, you don't see the NFL do that. You don't see the MLB do that, because if that was the facts, Aaron Judge is really, him and Ohtani are the faces of baseball. Why haven't those guys played in the World Series in the last couple of years? They don't do that. And how about the NHL? The best player, Connor McDavid. Has Connor McDavid ever played in an NHL finals? Never. He's never. So, again, it only happens in the NBA. It only happens in the NBA. And first, and you say David Stearns was cruel and everything. David Stearns dropped the hammer on people. If he didn't want something, he dropped the hammer. Chris Paul, they were about to settle the deal to send Chris Paul to the Lakers. That wasn't going to happen. David Stern was not going to allow it. Okay. But if Adam Silver was there, he would have allowed it. He would have said, hey, we'll give you him. We'll give you Luka Doncic. We'll give you, Giannis, whoever you want. You're the Lakers. That's the problem. That's the problem right now with the league, because Adam Silver's letting the players run the league. They don't like a rule. They don't like a call. They don't like a referee. Shame on you. We're going to suspend the referee because we think he's doing the wrong thing. It's always about the players. And to me, I understand they're bringing in money. I understand he's endorsing and bringing in all this money for Dorito deals and all this Prime deals and all that other stuff that they're bringing in. Me and you could do that too. If you know there's a product and it's worldwide, over 225 230 countries are out there promoting this product because of all these great young players that are from foreign countries, aka Luka Doncic, aka, the Joker. These guys are the best players in the league right now. I think Joker and Luka Doncic are the two best players in the league. And where are they from? They're not from around here. So again, you would think that the best player in the world would be from the United States. By the way, the third best player is probably from Greece, in Giannis. So you have the three best players right now in the NBA from different parts of the world. So that's the growth of the league. Why did the league grow the way it did? Because of Michael Jordan. David Stern promoted that for many, many years in the 80s. And when Michael Jordan decided to, tie up his sneakers and say, it's over, I'm not playing anymore, before he came back from the Bullets, he came out and said, basketball lost the greatest basketball player, one of the greatest ambassadors for the product and the growth of the product. He was right. But now LeBron James is taking all the credit as he's come out and said he's the best player ever. It's ridiculous. And I don't want to hear LeBron James's thoughts with this. I want to hear other players. I want to hear guys that I haven't heard. Guys like Damian Lillard. Why haven't we heard from him? Guys, superstar players. Why haven't we heard from Giannis? Giannis is a superstar player. He's not outspoken. Why don't we hear from him? No, we hear from Joel Embiid. We hear from Kyrie Irving. We hear from those kind of guys, LeBron James. I don't want to hear them anymore. How about Luka? Let's hear what Luka has to say about this rule. That's all I'm saying.
I think, to be fair to Silver and Stern, that relationship, I don't think, you compare completely what Silver's doing, because there was no social media like that today. There's so many non-stars that have all these millions of Instagram followers, and we know, because we talk about this type of stuff all the time, trying to get attention to the great content we put out. These guys don't even put out good content. They just get their face everywhere. And, in the NFL, and they're behind a mask, behind a helmet. We only really know a handful of the guys on the team, what they look like. By comparison to the NBA, I could tell you what Evan Fournier looked like, and I hated his guts, and he was like the 14th guy on the Knicks roster, until they finally mercifully got rid of him. I think that there's...
Actually, nice.
And that's the difference. There's a lot more attention to just the average guys in the NBA, where that draws attention. If people are for some reason following Evan Fournier, I guess in France somewhere, because it ain't in New York, I'll tell you that. That's still bringing attention to the league and making them money. So I think he's being business savvy, but maybe it's short term, not long term. Like you're saying, it's bad for the product overall.
By the way, Wes had to text picks. He couldn't make it today. Chaz has to go, so he's in now. Let's have him come in quickly.
All right. So why don't we do this quick? We call this segment "Let's Parlay." And Speedy doesn't know. Press a button.
It's time for Let's Parlay.
I wonder sometimes if Speedy's head is actually here. I really wonder if it's actually here. What's up, Chaz? How are you?
Well, it's pretty ironic that you use the soccer for the Let's Parlay, because I bet a lot of soccer now because Paolo's in my life,
There you go. And are you making some money?
Well, actually, I have a great story, because I've been on a nice little roll, but I left the money in Ethereum. I can't even pronounce it, the crypto. And I went to bed and woke up, and it went up 20% in one day.
I wouldn't trust crypto. I don't care what.
No, I use it to move my winnings back and forth. I don't have any investment in crypto, but I left it there. I'm not going to take it out, and eventually I'll take it out.
I know Wes really believes in the crypto. He's got a whole investment involved.
Well, yeah, it's just part of his portfolio, no doubt about it. But yeah, so and again, the other world we live in is Moneyline Mania world, and it really is. It's such a different way to bet, guys, when you just need the team to win and the points don't matter. It really makes a big difference. Don't get me wrong. Some of Paolo's, Petey and I have talked about it, minus 1,100. Even when you put that in a parlay, the parlay don't go up much, So yeah, are you going to throw some out there too, Errol, or what?
Wes has some. I'll read some of
Wes has some.
Okay.
He texted me some. He's stuck in traffic. He said he didn't know if he was going to make it.
Yeah, so I got to come. I'm gonna just use the 4 UFL games. Really, I'm doing really well, but it's CFL all over again. So Wes really taught me. I mean, it's a league with 8 teams and 3 good quarterbacks, right? The fourth team's pretty good because they run the ball. The other 4 stink. But now the point spreads are getting really high. So that's where, like last week, the money lines, they all hit. And I just said, let me assume 1 or 2 of these aren't going to cover, and 1 or 2 of them didn't. So I made the wise choice. Sometimes, of course, you kick yourself because they cover, and you only got them on the money line, you know? But the first one is the St. Louis game. So this is a team, of course, that has the famous A.J. McCarron on it. And he was hurt, and it cost me the game because I assumed that they're going to play. No news is good news, and then the news came, and it was bad news. So the line went from 6 to 2.5, I think, and it landed on 5. So I got beat because I had 6. But they score points with the other guy too. They score whoever. This team can score. This game could win it all. There's no doubt about it. But I think they're the second choice too. So I am taking St. Louis. I am giving the 3.5. I'm going to go on a different play for the second and third, and I'm taking the first. Now that's Saturday morning, 9 o'clock. This is Saturday at noon my time. I'm in San Diego. So in the first half, I'm going to parlay Birmingham and over. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want nothing to do with these other games. And I saw a trend that made me believe that if Birmingham is going to cover the 8.5 for the game, they're going to have to come out and play strong. So that'll be the second and the third play. And they'll have them straight too, but I'll also have them in round robins because then if one of them does lose, then I'm still live on the last one. And it's going to be Michigan. I think DC can win, but this DC is, 1-9 or 1-7, whatever they are, and the other team's the same, 2-6 or something like that. So I didn't want to get it, but Michigan is in a weird spot because they're trailing Birmingham, who's undefeated. Birmingham wins Saturday. Michigan's pretty much eliminated from the number 1 spot on that side. Just they don't have the crossover. Canada has that third team moves over kind of thing. And this 2 teams make on each, and that's it. And so. But Michigan's still going to make it, so they got a lot to play for. They're a prideful team, and they run the ball really, really well. They're the fourth best team. The same 4 teams I'm betting every week. This week I'm getting plus 320. So I'm betting the 4 best teams in the league to beat the 4 worst teams in the league. They're that way on the scoreboard. They're that way in the records, and they're that way in the stats. And I take the money line. They just got to win the game, and there's always going to be one that's a nail biter no matter what,
All right, so Wes had the Rangers money line tomorrow in game 2 against the Florida Panthers. He has the Dallas Mavericks covering +5 in their game 2 against the Timberwolves. And he had Chad, you'd be surprised at this. Wes actually texted a baseball pick, believe it or not. The Rays money line against the Royals tomorrow.
Where did he get that one from?
I don't know, but that's
maybe he's talking to GMF and doing what I do, giving out love.
So we have the
I got a couple of props.
The secret ones.
I got a couple of props tonight.
That's it, just 3?
I'm sorry?
Is there just 3?
That's all he texted me right now.
Oh, yeah, okay. I just want to make sure because I told you guys, Derek, John, anybody's on, Jonathan, whoever's on, I'm betting their bets because I've seen what they do. It's really amazing, Errol, that we get a winning percentage like we do. It really is.
No, it is really crazy. But by the way, I have a couple of props tonight for the Dallas Stars game. I have Draisaitl scoring in the game. So I think Draisaitl will score in this game. Right now it's 0-0 first intermission. I think he scores in the game. I do believe it'll be under. It'll be under 4.5. The game will be under 4.5. Well, actually Edmonton won't score over 4. So I think Edmonton will score 2 to 3 goals in the game, so it'll be under 4. So I would, if you could bet on that, I would do that. And tonight, well, obviously the game is over, so but I'm not going to mention it. But I had another bet, but those are the 2 bets. I have Draisaitl.
I did the same thing with the NHL earlier in the week where there was a game that nothing happened in the first quarter, so I bet the reduced over, and I have a parlay that's going in right now. That's the St. Louis Battlehawks in the first half minus 1.5 over 22.5 and over 3.5 in this game. I got a round robin.
Well, so. I'll just say this. Edmonton will not score. Right now, I think it's Edmonton on over 4.5. I don't think they score 4 goals. So
yeah, because it started at 5.5, then it went down to 4.5. Now I'm hopping on. I'm paying a little extra juice at 3.5, but I don't want to have to need another goal. I would rather risk $150 to win 100 at 3.5 than risk $100 to win 100 and have to need another goal.
Yeah.
You know?
And Draisaitl will score tonight. So those are my two bets. Draisaitl scores and Edmonton under 4.5. So those are
go.
Those are
All right, guys, always be cashing, huh?
Thanks, Chaz. Chaz, let's parlay. No West tonight, but he did have his picks. And listen, these guys are unbelievable. Their picks and the way they pick, it is fantastic. It really is. And by the way, what is it? What is this?
Awesome show from Mookie, Yerushalm Kagan or Kagan.
Well, thanks, Mook. We really appreciate you, as always, the Mookster. But do we have Bilal?
Yes, look like Bilal is
All right, so why don't we go to a quick break? When we come back, we'll have Bilal Powell. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute
Are you ready to get loud?
with Tommy Scoops.
That is right. As always, as promised, back with another update for the Loudmouth Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops, of course, no other. Currently going into the NBA, the 76ers are expected to pursue guard Donovan Mitchell with plenty of turmoil in the Cavaliers franchise in recent weeks. That Philadelphia is confident to get Mitchell next season if he does not agree to an extension. Over in the NFL, Cortland Sutton is actually missing the Broncos' offseason team activities. Sutton joins the list of the players holding out due to contract issues. However, head coach Sean Payton is not concerned and optimistic that issues will be sorted out before this season. And lastly, free agent running back Dalvin Cook is dismissing all talk of him being washed and worn out, as Cook says he is still making a backfield electric and can help a team win a championship. Right now, going into Scoops' scores, at halftime, Boston has a 57-51 lead over Indiana, and over in the NHL right now, Dallas and Edmonton are currently tied up at 0 apiece. That is currently all I have right now for you guys. I'm going to kick it back to the boys for their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host, Speedy, Petey, and our executive producer, Mr. Aaron Fishman. We call him Fish in our Sports Minute. Our guy, Tommy Scoops.
Willie Whopper, Speedy! Willie Whopper!
Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in to check out all our local listing for all our shows, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And Bilal got a chance to hear a little bit of our soundboard. We have a crazy soundboard, Bilal.
How thick do you like the beef?
This is how you shave.
There's barely any hair on it.
Who decides on that?
Our guy, Tommy Scoops. He's
The one that was just reading for us before.
He goes through the shows and our tidbits, and he cuts them out. It really, really funny.
You sound like a frat boy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not licking anyone.
You could do that the whole show.
We can. He's got.
I'm not embracing it. I have zero interest in putting balls into a knot.
But we've had Bilal on our show quite a few times. We love him. One of my favorite players as a New York Jet. We are now talking to former New York Jets running back Bilal Powell. Bilal, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? Doing good.
I love the Jets hat, man. I love you because you're one of my favorite players. I have your jersey. I tell you this all the time. I rooted for you for all the injuries that you dealt with in your career. You are a tough guy. And to me, when you look at these running backs, I'm just speaking the truth. They're such babies now. In the NFL, they hurt their toe. They have a nail fall off their toe. They're out for 2 weeks. They're out for 3 weeks. It's ridiculous. So I want to get into the running back position because they've devalued this running back position over the last couple of years. I don't understand it. I think some of these running backs were devalued. One of them, Saquon Barkley, and the Giants devalued him. He goes over there to the Eagles, and then you have Tiki Barber come out and saying, "We don't like you anymore. We disown you." What were your thoughts to the whole Saquon Barkley? If you were Saquon Barkley, do you do the same thing?
I do the same thing. If you don't want to pay me, you have to depart. It's business at the end of the day. You can't.
Oh, he muted. He was muted.
You muted.
There you go. Well, unmute him. There you go. There you go. Go ahead.
Yep, sorry.
You know?
Yeah. Now we hear you. Yes. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
but it's business though. Like you have a relationship with the team. You know what I mean, that you build. But at the end of the day, man, it comes down to that dollar sign, and it comes down to it being a business. Like, because if you hold on to them, one day they're going to divorce you. At the end of the day, so you have to jump ship when you have the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about it from the draft value perspective, because we've seen the running back position not get drafted in the first round either, besides Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan recently. And they don't get the fifth-year options. They don't get those types of extra compensation you get with draft picks. So do you think the NFLPA has to change that kind of thing?
I think so. But, at the end of the day, I think outside of the quarterback and the center, the running back touches the ball the most. And if you touch the ball, you're at risk for injury. They always talk about it. You said it yourself. These guys that get nipped, and what we've seen is these star running backs battle injury. I mean, Christian I think this is like his first year with almost a full season that he's been healthy. Saquon with the same thing. You see these guys who can put up the numbers. I mean, they contribute 30% of the offensive stats, 30%. So how can you devalue a position when you're making up 30% or more of yards gained from the line of scrimmage? I don't understand it.
We are talking to former New York Jets running back Bilal Powell. Bilal, we look at the league and the transformation of the league, and you're seeing these wide receivers, they're making ridiculous money. We just had a whole segment about Justin Jefferson. He could be the highest paid player besides the quarterback position. He could be making more than Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is making $37 million. He could be making $40 million, $42 million a year, and he has a rookie quarterback now, JJ McCarthy, throwing to him. Do you believe that wide receivers should be paid this amount of money? And why do you believe that the NFL and all these different GMs devalue the running back position? Like you just said, they touch the ball the majority of the time. They take the most beatings, and they give these prima donna wide receivers this kind of money. Do you believe that wide receivers should be making this kind of money over running backs?
Honestly, without being biased, I don't think so. I think when you look at the running back position, and I'm talking about personal experience, I had to block, I had to get and line up outside versus safety or linebacker. I had to be able to run inside, outside. I had to pretty much know what the offensive line was doing in the quarterback. There was times where I had to put a young quarterback in the right play, like, hey, check it. Like, I was like a second like quarterback on the field. I have the best view in the stadium. I can see everything from corner to corner. I got the best view, and I have more responsibilities than any other besides the quarterback. I think we have the most responsibility. Now, I'm not going to take anything from being a wide receiver. Listen, I'm not talking down on my receivers. They do make up a big part, and they're a big part of the excitement side. I think now the NFL is more concerned about excitement. I remember when I came in the league, it was about defense. They said, defense win games, offense sell tickets. Now, when you look at explosive plays, receivers are making more explosive plays than running backs. And I think that's what owners and the marketing and everything is going to the excitement side of it. And you have to pay that guy that's exciting.
So we heard a rumor a couple of weeks ago about the NFL wanting to expand to an 18-game season, giving 2 bye weeks, but just more games. What are your thoughts as a former player on that?
I mean, if the pay's there, I mean, pay me for the extra game at the end of the day. And I think that's what a lot of guys were concerned about. Like, you're adding in another game without the pay, the same salary, adding in the extra game, up the salary. Like, you got to give it to where it is. Like, we put our bodies and our minds on the line for this league and these teams to make billions of dollars each year. So if you're going to add a game, add more to the salary, add more to give more guaranteed money. If you add in the game, you add another game, that's another risk of getting hurt, another week of going through practice, getting hurt. So if you want to do that, add more guaranteed money to salaries.
Now let's get to the New York Jets, because the Jets needed to make moves in the offseason. The last time we had you on the show, we thought that this team was going to explode right off the paper with Aaron Rodgers, the hard knocks. We were like, oh, this is going to be great. And then 4 plays in, the guy tears his Achilles. He's out for the season, and the Jets season was left on Zach Wilson, who was an absolute joke. The offseason, bringing in Tyron Smith, bringing in Morgan Moses, bringing in all the offensive line help, then bringing in Olu in the first round. I think he fell to them. It was fantastic to see a player from Penn State who didn't give up a sack at all in his college career. And he played against Ohio State, Michigan. He played against great defenses and dominated the line of scrimmage. What were your thoughts with some of the moves the Jets made? And is there a specific move that stuck out to you this offseason that you believe could take the Jets over the top?
I think bringing in Mike Williams and just giving Garrett Wilson some space to breathe. Like, he's a young guy. I don't think he needs some of that attention brought off of him, and he need a guy on the other side that can be consistent, that can do some things for him. And then going to get this kid Malachi Corley from WKU, a guy who I think is a little too early to try to compare to Deebo Samuels, but I mean, he has the same style of play as Deebo Samuels. But at the end of the day, he adds a different dynamic to what we've seen from any Jets pick that they had or free agency. Like, this guy's he reminds me of a bigger Percy Harvin, so to speak. So now you have to account for that as a defensive coordinator, and then you have a Breece Hall. Like, you could put 2-back sets, you could do all type of things to create these matchups that you want from an offensive standpoint. And I was kind of like thinking that the New York Jets were going to go get Brock Bowers from Georgia. I thought they were going to get him, but they did go get Malachi. So that was a good pick by him. And honestly, I think with what Joe Douglas has done on paper, the roster, when you look at this roster from top to bottom in the last 3 years, defense finishing top 5 2 years in a row. Like, Joe Douglas is putting pressure on Robert Saleh. Like, he's doing his job as an owner. If I'm looking at all the pieces, if you have any kind of sense of football, you can sit up and say that Joe Douglas, from bringing in and trading up and trading down and trading guys out to get the right pieces in the building, he's putting a lot of pressure on Robert. And I think this is the type of roster that you look at this year and say to yourself, this could be one of those seasons that we haven't seen in New York, where a coach could get fired mid-season if it's starting to get ugly. And now you got Aaron Rodgers back. Hopefully he stays healthy, and there's no more excuses for the New York Jets.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett was the one in rumors last week that they were trying to replace him during the offseason, but I guess they couldn't find a guy that they wanted, or maybe somebody got poached out of them. So what are your thoughts on those whole rumors from the inner locker room perspective?
Well, then you hear reports about Aaron Rodgers saying that he and Robert Saleh is going to be more involved on the offensive side. Like, what does that entail? Is that him saying, hey, no, don't go get anyone else, leave Nathaniel Hackett in his position? Like, did he have say-so in that? I think he's been having a lot of say-so in some of the decisions that the New York Jets have made. And I think one of them being that they didn't go out and get a big-time quarterback, because he said, why would you go get a big-time quarterback and I have one more year left? And if that guy comes in and does a good job for the team, then there's no more need for Aaron Rodgers. So I think he was in a big part of that, of them not going to get a big free agent pick. And now you're saying that you're going to be more involved and Robert's going to be more involved. As a defensive-minded coach, that's one thing you do not want to depend on. That's one less thing as a head coach that you want to depend on, having too much control on offense and defense. You hire an offensive coordinator to do that. So if you have to have that much accountability, then you have the wrong guy in the building. And let's start there, right? And let's be accountable now. Now that you're going into I think it's his fourth season. What is it? Fifth season? Fourth?
It is fourth.
This is his
fourth season. Like, you got to have some kind of accountability. All right. Zach Wilson's out the door. All right. That's out the door. There's no more, putting our hat on that and why he's here. Why is he still in the building? He's out the door. So now you just have to have accountability. You got to go win football games at the end of the day.
We are talking to former New York Jets running back Bilal Powell, a friend of the show. We love him. You know, it's so interesting because you bring up Robert Saleh, and I think Robert Saleh is not a good coach. And the talent that he's had over the last couple of years is remarkable. Garrett Wilson was a shell of himself. He still had over 1,000 yards, and he had, 4 quarterbacks throwing him the ball last year. So there's no excuse this year. You're absolutely right. And by the way, when it came out during this offseason, after the season was over, that Nathaniel Hackett is not going to be the only guy calling the plays. They're going to be the wide receiving coach, the assistant offensive coordinator is going to be calling plays. That tells me one thing, that something is going on the sidelines that is not working. If you think Nathaniel Hackett is not a good offensive coordinator, you should have fired him. It doesn't make any sense. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers coming out and throwing Nathaniel Hackett under the bus so far this offseason doesn't make any sense either. So it tells me there's a lot of dysfunction over there, and it's becoming a clown show again. You do not want this to break this season, early in the season. If the Jets go, the schedule, the first 3 games are not easy. It's not going to be easy. Where are they playing their first game of the season? San Francisco. Where does Aaron Rodgers have problems winning every single year when he plays over there? San Francisco. So it's not good. And by the way, the Jets play 3 games in less than 12 days. 3 games. So that's a lot. What is it? I think they said it was like, they play one Thursday night game, they play a Monday night game, and they play a Sunday night game. It goes Monday, Sunday, Thursday. I mean, you're playing. It's tough. You expect and you want the Jets to win at least 2 out of those 3 games. That starts the season. He even said it at his press conference. It's going to be really, really tough the first 3 games of the season. So, what are your thoughts? My thoughts on the whole Nathaniel Hackett situation, like we were just speaking, and then the way the schedule is set up for the first 3 games of the season.
I mean, you definitely you don't want that kind of distraction this early. Like last year, they had a ton of distraction being on Hard Knocks, being that everyone was talking about Super Bowl contending, Aaron Rodgers. Like now it's just like, okay, let's go through this. Let's go through this preseason subtle. All right, let's handle the business that we need to handle. The distractions off of us. All right, we don't have that big target on our back like we did last year, being on Hard Knocks and entertaining. Like we could really get to work now. So when you hear reports like that coming out as a player, I'm just speaking as a player. It's just like, here we go again. Can we just break free from those type of things, those distractions, and like really lock in on trying to be a Super Bowl contending team? Not just this year. You got an opportunity now. Bill Belichick's out of New England. You have the chance to turn this whole organization around. I mean, you got a young. I think you got a steal in the 5th round pick with that quarterback, Jordan Travis.
Yes.
Jordan Travis, you got a steal with him that can come and sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and I think he has the potential to come in and be a franchise quarterback. Bill Belichick's out. You got one of the best defenses. It's been proven 2 years in a row now that you have a top defense. So there's no more excuses, man. Like when you put that type of stuff on paper as a GM, you kind of like putting pressure on everyone else. Like I said, the quarterback, the guy that is, pretty much responsible for bringing half the free agents and in the OC. Now all of a sudden he's pointing fingers and he wants this done and that done. When at the end of the day, like you said, be responsible and go out and find you an offensive coordinator that's going to help you win, because this is a winning business. And if you don't get it this year, who's to say you'll get it next year? And I've been hearing that. I played 9 years. I didn't get a chance. It's always, let's wait. There's no wait for next year. I didn't play in any playoff games. I was waiting for that next year to come, and it never comes. So you got to hold yourself accountable if you want to change the path of that organization.
So what are your thoughts on some of the young running backs? They drafted one this year in Braylon Allen, which a lot of people thought was a steal at that point. And then last year with Israel Apakanita, who didn't play much. You had a lot of injury issues. So what are your thoughts on those 2 guys?
Honestly, I think it's going to be that's probably going to be one of the most competitive rooms in this training camp. I think when you look at it, Breece Hall, as we know, he's the workhorse. He's going to be the workhorse, and that second position is wide open right now. So as a young guy, you drafted 2 young guys, right? You drafted 2 running backs this year, and you got a young guy that you took mid-round last year. That's creating a lot of competition, and you can only keep 3, so to speak. So as a young running back, this is what I would tell them is make sure you're on the special teams. because that's the only way you're going to stay. Because we already know who's number one back. We know Brees Hall is he's the workhorse. All right, he's the force in the backfield. You're pretty much fighting for a spot to go in, relieve, and have an opportunity to pretty much contribute to a team that can possibly go to the playoffs this year and has a chance to go and win a lot of games this year.
And that's what worries me, because you have Izzy. Izzy didn't really get a chance last year. And because of his injury, some people think that he lost his spot. And now you have Allen. You got the guy from South Dakota who a lot of people like. They like him. They're saying that Izzy's going to be the odd man out because, like you said, you have Brees Hall, who's there. And now you have the other two guys, and Allen's one of the youngest guys in the draft. He's 20 years old. He's a sensational player. Some people thought he was a top 50 prospect. He fell to the Jets in the 4th round. I mean, he could be the future. Remember, Brees is only there for 2 more years. They might not re-sign him. Allen could be the next man up. He could be the future running back of this organization, especially the age and how young he is. So what are your thoughts to that? I mean, Allen is a beast. I watched that kid. I've watched clips. I didn't get a chance to watch Wisconsin enough this year to know what he is. The guy's built like an ox. He's 6'1", 240 pounds. What did he run his 40 in? I think it was 4.4.
I think it was 4.4.
Yeah.
At 230.
Yes.
That's insane.
It's insane what this guy can be. I mean, and he for 2.5 years, 3 years over there in Wisconsin, he barely was injured. So this guy is built to beat up defenses. What are your thoughts to Allen and what type of player he could be?
I mean, that's just showing you who Joe Douglas is. He's playing chess right now. Some of the moves you make that he's making and he's calling, it's like, oh man, okay, all right, I can see that. Oh, that trade. Like he's really playing chess when it comes to one. You're building a depth chart, right? You're building depth and you're building for the future. Like he's playing chess right now with what he's doing. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, I think that was a good sign. As a backup quarterback. Like he's been proven, he's been consistent as a backup quarterback for years, over a decade now. He's been proven, he's been a starter before. So, he won't have like the cold feet when that opportunity comes. He's played in the big city. He was just over on that blue team last, you know what I mean? So, but I just see Joe Douglas is, you have to take your hat off to what he's doing. I think it all started all the way back to when Jamal Adams got out of here. We ended up getting Brees Hall because of that move right there. Like it's just like this man he's been just consistent in the draft. He's been consistent in free agency. And now he just has to have that head coach step up to the plate. He has to have someone step up to the plate. I can only imagine as a chef just creating all these recipes and then everyone in the kitchen just messing it up. I just know it's just magnificent. But if you don't have that team that understands and go in the right direction, then who you gonna blame? You're gonna blame the GM. And the GM's like, hey, I'm giving you the players. Now it's time to be, it's time to go win some football games. Like I want to come to New York and be a part of a winning city. Like I remember 2015 when we were winning, had a chance at the playoffs. That city was it was insane. It was electrifying. I want to get back to that. And we could do that for a very long time looking at this team right now.
By the way, you mentioned Joe Douglas. He kind of gift wrapped a guy like Jamal Adams over there to Seattle. You know what he got? I know you said it was Brees Hall. He got Garrett Wilson, Elijah Vera Tucker. Okay. That's what he got for Jamal Adams, who, by the way, is going where? Where's he heading now? It seems like he's been chilling. A journeyman. He got one of the biggest safety contracts in NFL history, did nothing, couldn't stay healthy. I mean, he wasn't even the same player he was with the New York Jets. I mean, that was the trade that changed everything for Joe Douglas. It was because he has Garrett Wilson now, who some people think is going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league with Aaron Rodgers there if he plays the full season. And now you have Mike Williams on the other side. It's going to open it up for him. And if Elijah Vera Tucker stays healthy, Elijah Vera Tucker's only given up 1 sack in 2 years in 16 games. And he played not 1, not 2, but 4 separate positions and didn't give up more than 1 sack. So that tells you how good Elijah Vera Tucker. Keep him away from Denver. That's what I'm saying. Don't let him play in Denver. That's all. They're playing Denver this year. It's going to be at MetLife. I wouldn't even play
It's
him
the
in that
MetLife
game.
Stadium turf, though. You never know.
I wouldn't
You
even
never
let him
know.
play in that
You
game.
never know.
I wouldn't even let him play in that game. I'd say, you know what? You're sitting in this game. For some reason, they're your ether. Do not play him against Denver. That's
And
just my
maybe you
that's
sit
just my
Aaron
thought.
Rodgers for the first 4 snaps. Sit him down
That's
for the
true
first snap.
too. I mean,
All right, Phil Snap, run him out there. Let's go.
I wanted to throw up because I watched that game. And Bilal, I watched that game. I was sitting at a friend's house. I was at the Beeves house, and we're sitting there, and everybody's there. They're all celebrating, and you see the lights go down, and you see all the lights, the green lights go up, and then you see Aaron Rodgers run on the field with the flag. And I'm like, oh, he looks like Captain America. And I'm like, you watch, guys. He's going to get on the field, and sometime in this game, he's going to get a season-ending injury, and the Jets season is over. Everybody's, oh, this is Aaron Rodgers. This is going to be great. 4 plays, and I see this guy go down, and I'm like, the season is over. And I was like, and it was. It
was over.
It was over.
And you know the sad part about it is everyone said the season was over, and that was a victory. We beat Buffalo. And everyone still was saying the season was over. Like, I was in the stadium when it happened. I was there, and you could hear a pin drop. And I'm telling you, the only thing that kind of like got people away and the fans away from the fact that Aaron Rodgers was out was that game-winning punt return. And that they gave the slightest hope, but the next day, you know how like you wake up and you forget what happened, and until you read the headlines and like, oh, the season's over with. It's over.
You know what's so
It's
funny?
over.
And everybody thought they were bringing up that punt return, and this guy Gibson's going to have like 6 or 7 of them this year. That was the only punt return he had the whole season. I was like, oh,
one of the few ones in the league.
This is Jet. Like this year with the new rule, there's going to be you're going to see a lot of kickoff returns with the new rule. That's my question to you. Do you like this new kickoff rule for the NFL?
Like the one that they just adopted from like XFL or something like that.
Yes.
Just take it out of the game. Like, you know, it's just take it. That's just doing too much. That looked like a scrimmage, you know, like green and white scrimmage, and we just want to see some live kicks. All right, don't tackle type of thing. Where they should just do like a 2-hand touch for that play. I mean, it's just getting crazy, man. Because I came in a league where you had a 10-yard head start from, you were able to run into the kick. And then it went to, you had to be at 5 yards and now 1 yard. And now you're telling me we got to line up and then we can't run until you catch it. Like, that's just some backyard stuff, man, that you make up at the family barbecue.
Do you know how many touchdowns they're going to be this year? Just think about it. You know how many touchdowns? These guys, if you give them 20 yards to run the ball and they get into that second, what do they call that? That second speed, that third speed. How are you going to – Xavier Worthy, do you see how fast that guy is? If he's punt returning, he runs a 4.2, 4.26. Do you think anybody's catching that guy in the open field? Come on, guys.
No.
You're going to see – Patrick Mahomes is going to start on the 50 every single time. You think that's fair? That's not going to be fair.
It's not going to be fair, but I'm kind of interested to see how, like, special team coordinators, what plays do you put in? How do you adapt to it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to start to adapting to these things, and the coaches that can't do it, man, they find themselves out of the league, and hopefully I think, Brent Boyer, who's one of my favorite coaches on the staff, he was a player, played 11 years. He understands that he gets it, and he's a heck of a coach. I think they'll probably have one of the top special teams this year.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that's going to change draft strategy as well for a lot of these players.
100%.
We saw it in kind of a smaller sample this year. He was talking about Worthy too, like having that kind of speed with obviously the Chiefs need wide receivers anyway, but you think more of those types of players that are either harder to tackle, like the bigger yards of the catch guys like Corley, like somebody like that, will go earlier in the draft, or even a corner that maybe is a kick returner going earlier?
I don't think so. I don't even know if you'll look at this as a true like kick returner. Like if the way it's set up, it almost looks like a running back getting the ball running through a line of scrimmage. The way it's going up. So I would now as if I'm in the front office, just for this particular position, I'm going out to find a guy like Braylon Allen, who's a 4'4", 230. That could just, if you could just field the kick return, this is nothing but you running the ball from the line of scrimmage. It's not a true kickoff return anymore where you have to like set it up and do all these different things. It's just getting the ball, and it's almost like you're running behind the O-line or D-line. So I think the structure of it is going to start to change. I guarantee you start to see more bigger, like the bigger backs, like the guy Isaac Garendo, who ran the 4.33 at 220. Oh, he'll be my kick returner. And in today's game, with the way it's set up, a guy that can put his foot in the ground, get vertical. How are you? I mean, you used to be able as a player on the kickoff team, you're running down with momentum and speed. And if you hit a guy, you're going to pretty much stop him. Where now you telling me I can't go until he catches it. So he's building up more momentum than I am. So to an advantage, I would definitely put a bigger back down there. The guy that's going to be a one cut and go.
That's interesting. We are talking to former New York Jets running back, our friend Bilal Powell. You know, it's so funny you mentioned that, and Allen being the beast of a man. I definitely would look at that as well. But you know what's so funny? The NFL is trying to spin the wheel and make the deal. They're trying to change everything. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Now they adopted Sean Payton's rule for 1 year, and then they say, you know what, we're not going to keep that. Now they have the Josh Allen rule for the playoffs, but they don't have it in a regular season. None of it makes sense, and that has a lot to do with Roger Goodell and how stupid he really is. But that's just my opinion. I'm not gonna throw you under the bus. I just think the guy's a complete moron. But and by the way, what the hell was he wearing at the draft? And what drugs was he on? The guy couldn't even spit out the words when he was up at the mic. I
I think
mean,
he was on painkillers. His back. He had surgery.
whatever he's taking, give me some of that.
Yeah, I think he was on painkillers. He just got out of back surgery or something like that. And I heard that they were advised not to pick him up, and the big guy picked him up. I heard they were advised. You know, you see a couple guys pick him up.
Yeah.
I was told that, don't touch him. He's he just got out of procedure not too long ago. He's still healing up.
Poor Roger
And no one
Goodell.
picked him up. I'm like, he's a $60 million man. Pick his ass up.
I mean,
I'm surprised they didn't suspend that player yet already.
Pick him up. He can go back in procedure again later. All right.
This mofo is making $60 million a year, and he's complaining about nobody touching him at the draft. Give me a break. Stop complaining. Stop bitching.
Spank it.
There you go. Spank it. But it's so, but to get back with the New York Jets, the thing that really throws me off going into this season is everybody was talking about the offensive line. They bring in all these veteran players. And, when you bring in these veteran players that are injury prone, and Morgan Moses for his career, he's really been healthy. He was a pretty good Jet. His 1 year, he played 15 games. He was pretty solid, and the Jets decided to part ways with him. They bring in the kid, the guard from Simpson, who actually is a healthy guy. He stays healthy. But Tyron Smith, he's an injury-prone guy. And I understand why they drafted Olu, but you're putting a lot of pressure on the young kid. And I'm going to tell you why. Everybody says he should start. You're putting a lot of pressure. You're coming right behind on arguably one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play in this game. And if something happens to him in week 2, week 3, you're bringing in a rookie that still is trying to figure out the speed of the game, understand the game, and then you're putting Aaron Rodgers in harm's way, where you're putting him in a position. If you're going to draft a guy like that, you start him. You do not put him on the bench and let him sit on the bench and say, well, if Tyron Smith gets hurt, you're going to be in. You're going to be the guy in. That's putting a lot of pressure on the kid. What are your thoughts to that?
That is a lot of pressure. I think it's pressure both ways. I came out in the lockout year, and we only had one meeting, and then we were on the field for training camp, not OTAs, not rookie, for training camp. I think if he's a smart guy, he played at Penn State. I think he can be a day one starter if you allow him to do that. But what you're trying to see is some of these guys can't adopt. They can't adjust to the pro level because they're just thrown into the fire. Right? I think to me, I believe in let them sit 1 year, let them kind of learn, let them see what it's like to like be behind a veteran and be prepared to do it and be ready to just go in and step in and take on that role.
So shout out to our executive producer Fisher gave us this. You're working with the NFL Youth Advisory Committee now. Talk about your role with that and what that entails.
Yeah, I'm one of 8 former players that's a part of it. Most of us are in the Legends community where it's player led. where we're trying to connect, those guys who are transitioning out to retirement, and we're trying to get to the younger guys as much as possible before that retirement kind of creeps up on you. You think you're gonna play forever, and the next thing you know it's here, and you have a hard time transitioning. So we're trying to just bridge the former players and the current players, the relationship, and just helping guys kind of transition into that second career. I sit on the committee because I'm actually a coach. So in order to be on the committee, you have to be involved with like youth or high school sports, head coach, any kind of coordinator, assistant, or something in the youth area. And what we do, we're just trying to find a way to make the game low risk. We call it low risk. We can't make the game safer, right? We're just trying to push out as much knowledge to everyone, trying to get to this tier, right? Everybody that's playing this game, they're trying to make it to the NFL. So we built the committee to pretty much create language that everyone can adopt, right? They can adopt it, they're speaking it, and now they're teaching the game the same way. It's like an international language. Everyone's speaking the same language, because what I was taught growing up, I would not teach to my son or any other kid coming in. The way I played the game was old school, and just because I was taught it doesn't mean I teach the next generation. So we're just trying to find ways to prevent less risk to the game, sport.
Before we let you go, because I know you're a busy guy, and I want to keep you on all hours of the night. It's getting late for us too. We have one more segment to go, but I'm going to say something to you, man.
Yeah.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for you because of the toughness that you provided for the New York Jets and the team. And I look at some of these players, and I mentioned this in the beginning of this interview. I look at the prima donnas in the NFL, and there's a lot of them. A lot of complaining, a lot of bitching and moaning. I got to play 17 games, and now it might be 18, and they're making a lot of money. You never seen the money that these guys are making. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, we're going to see $1 billion player eventually. We're going to see a guy that's going to make $100 million a year. Okay, it's ridiculous what these guys are bringing in right now. And then you have like Kirk Cousins complaining because, hey, you know what? They drafted Michael Penix at 8 when you just got guaranteed money. And then you got Deshaun Watson, who likes to play with himself or play with other people, doing whatever he does in his fair time with Robert Kraft or whoever he's hanging out with. You know what I mean? And then he's making guaranteed money from the Browns for $230 million, and the guy doesn't play more than 8 games. I think to me, it's a big problem right now in the NFL. And I think that money should be guaranteed. Okay. I think in all sports, if you're getting that contract, you're guaranteed to get all that money. The problem here is when you look at the major leagues, if you don't play out that contract and you have to retire, you got to negotiate a deal, and you cut ties with the team, and you negotiate whatever you're going to get out of it. So what are your thoughts to the NFL and maybe figuring out a way where these players are going to get the guaranteed money and not get screwed? There's only guaranteed money in the signing bonus. There's no guarantees at the end of the contract. Do you like the way the NFL works from all the other sports, or do you think that there needs to be change?
I would love to one day see a full contract for a player.
Mhm.
But you said it, and it stuck out to me. You said we're going to see a guy making $100 million a year. So if there's a guy making $100 million a year, just imagine what the NFL is bringing in, what the owner's bringing in to pay a guy $100 million.
Mhm.
So that's just letting you know the direction of where this game is going. Everybody talks about that's the biggest thing. Sitting on the committee, we talk about our stakeholders, the Rydell's, Schutt, Vices, all these different helmets and companies that create these helmets to make the game a lot safer, right? But no one really wants to talk about the respect that we need when it comes to this game, because there's no amount of equipment that you could put on our mind, right? And we choose to play it, absolutely. But the stress of what goes on mentally as a football player. I seen a debate talking about the NFL players being able to play NBA and vice versa. There's absolutely no way. You
It's
already
Gilbert
talking about
Arenas, that idiot. That
listen.
friggin'
Oh, it's Austin Rivers.
yeah, that's another.
Yeah,
I
like
respect
it's
him.
no way, man. Like dudes are really gladiators out there, dog. Like it's real deal. Like even practice is tough. And so, before I take my last breath, I would love to see the NFLPA find a way to negotiate that in the next collective bargain agreement, that players get two things: that players get fully guaranteed contracts,
Mhm.
right? And now I'll put some respect on it. Now you can't just come in and get a fully guaranteed. Maybe a second contract. Maybe once you start to solidify yourself as a vet, those next contracts are fully guaranteed. In having medical, having insurance for the rest of your life, because this game is not affecting us now. It's affecting guys, years and years down the line. And a lot of guys don't have insurance right now. Like that runs out 5 years after you're retired. I would love to see 100% insurance for the rest of our lives and having our money fully guaranteed.
And the one gift that I want all the players to have is when they retire, we tie Roger Goodell to a tree and we use him as pinata. That would be a great gift. I mean, seriously. And hopefully we'll have some candy or whatever else pops out of his, his back, his ass, or whatever. I mean, that's what I would like to see. Roger Goodell get beaten up with a bat on a tree.
Good for me or good for you?
Good for me. That's what I'm saying.
Then you could do Austin Rivers next and have JJ Watt tackle him.
All right, Speedy. I want to have some fun with this. I want you to pick out an instrumental. Okay. And I want Scoops to give our friend Bilal Powell a little glimpse of our wonderful soundboard. Are you ready, Bilal?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Give it.
Do you bend the meat?
Go ahead, Speedy.
Still loading.
You're loading? Come on, you're a producer and you're loading.
I didn't expect to do this.
Well, that's the whole thing. You got to plan it on the fly. What is going on with you tonight, man?
Are you a meat bender? Are you a meat bender? Shave the ass, baby. Shave the ass. It's good for both. You don't like powder?
Like what? You want to go burn a bush in a crab? Men in Black memory eraser. Not embracing your nonsense. I don't drink a lot of milk. Chocolate's a good
Speedy,
flavor.
is that you?
Oh. Yeah, maybe carrots.
On the-
I'll give you that one. No, I wouldn't. Spewing this nonsense to a bunch of random. Not embracing your nonsense. You're the king of wishful thinking. You don't control your subconscious. I would hope that would never happen. I'm not licking anyone. I don't drink a lot of milk. You sound like a frat boy.
Slap that ass. I want you to slide it right in. Willie Whoppers, Speedy! Willie Whoppers! Have you ever sniffed lines? How thick do you like to be? Thickness. Shave the ass, Speedy. Shave the ass. I have zero interest in putting balls into a knot.
There's barely any hair. Yeah, because the word jizz is really structured. That was years ago. Her life, I don't it's gross. It's evolution. You don't know. Good for you. Irrelevant.
All right, I'm done.
Good for you.
There. What did you think about the soundboard?
Who put it together? Like, how do you know to put the soundboards in order? Like,
He
we
set
just sitting
it
there
up.
hitting a button. How did you do that?
Yeah, he just hit in buttons. He cuts out all different parts of different takes of the show, the funny parts, and he just puts it. It's very funny, and we use it sometimes to really throw Speedy under the bus. Me, I'm crazy, but Speedy, he has these ad libs that are just fantastic. You could get. He'll say something on the show that you wouldn't even believe. He said something before the show, and I told Scoops record it because he doesn't know when we're recording him, and I get under his skin, and when I get under his skin, he goes crazy. He says some of the most ridiculous, and he's so honest, Bilal. He is so honest. You can ask him any question, he will give you the answer to it. It doesn't matter, sexual, weird, dumb, stupid. The guy will give you an answer to every single question. Look at him.
Your agenda.
Look at him right there. The last.
Do you bend the meat?
The last meat bender. You see the dog bouncing over there? His dog likes to lick his ass, you know?
Slap that ass.
My dog would never be that well behaved in that kind of office. Whatever that building is.
No, I'm not embracing it.
Accurate. I'll give you that one.
Oh, man. Bilal, we really appreciate the time as always. And, man, we'd love to get you on the show before the season starts. We should get maybe one or two of your old teammates. I would love to get you guys on it and honestly have it like a trivia contest with you and maybe two of your ex-teammates and see who knows more about the Jets this year and knows more about the teams that you guys played for. That would be interesting. And whoever wins, I will donate a certain amount of money to one of your picked organizations. And I think that would be great. I think it'd be really, really funny. And to get you could pick the three guys. You could pick the two guys that you want to argue with, and we'll get them, all three of them on the show, and I'll donate something to whoever, whatever organization you guys work for, and whoever wins the trivia contest. What do you think about that?
That's cool. Sound like a plan.
Well, man, you look good. You could still, with the new rule, the new kickoff rule, I think you should reach out to the Jets.
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I like the artwork behind you, by the way.
Thank you, man.
I like that. I'm a big art guy, so I like to go to art events and stuff like that. But they get a little crazy when we go and they want us to host events because they think I'm a little out of my mind. But but I do it anyways. I'm a DJ. I do weddings. I do album release parties. This weekend I'm doing a communion. I'm doing a wedding. I'm doing what do they do that when you find out what baby you're gonna get? What do they call it?
Oh, the reveal party, gender reveal.
Dude, I'm doing a gender reveal party to these rich people, and they have me DJing for 5 hours. After it takes 5 seconds to find out what kind of kid they have, and then they want me to, entertain, 200 people at their house for 5 hours. So, and that's easy for me. Entertaining people is easy for me. So, it'll be interesting.
How do you go about picking your list?
I don't.
Your playlist.
I've been a DJ since I was 15. I'm 42. So I've been doing it for 27 years. And I started off with records. Then I went to CDs. And now it's like all these DJs that think they're DJs, they're button pushers. I don't even cue any of my music. DJs watch me and they're like, you don't even cue your music. No, I count the beats per minute with my ear because I've been doing it with records since I was a kid. So I read the crowd. If the crowd, I'll go through. If they're disco fans, I love spinning disco music. If it's 80s music, I like spinning 80s music. 90s music, freestyle music, I'll spin that. Trance music, anything they want. I could spin a hip hop music. I'm a hip hop 90s guy, so you name it. Biggie, Big Pun, Big L, you name it. I'll play Busta Rhymes. And I mix it all up, and people are like, I haven't heard that song in a while. I was like, I'm surprised you even heard the song. Some of these parties, you see these rich people, I'm like, they're sitting there, it's like, man, I love this song. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'm surprised you actually listened to it.
You'd be surprised.
Listen to this. I had a grandmother. She's 69 years old. I did a party about 3 weeks ago. And I was spinning Biggie Smalls, and she came up to me and she's like, I love Biggie. Give me some more. Play 10 Crack Commandments. I was like, what?
Well, you got to think that was like 20, 30 years ago. What was that? The early 90s?
It was a long time ago. It was like 30 years ago. And
so she was what, in her 30s then?
Whatever she was, but
40s?
She came up to me and she's like, play 10 Crack Commandments. And she's standing there and she's like, give me the mic. Give me the mic. I was like, please, lady, I do not want you mouth singing or singing karaoke. Oh man, it was ridiculous. But Bilal, we love you. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Bilal Powell, one of my favorite players. I love him. great personality, and he knows his football as he is. He's a coach, guys. He's a coach. Speedy, would you let him coach you?
I don't think it would work because I'm not very athletic. But
Well,
Bilal is a great coach, so I'm not going to doubt his ability on that.
I think he could coach you. I think anybody can coach you, Speedy, especially your dog.
No, he could not.
How do you know? Have you?
No, my dog is not what you would label as an intelligent one.
Your dog likes to lick ass.
My dog is very easy to manipulate.
So you manipulate your dog. So what do you do?
Oh
with
yeah,
your dog?
yeah. No, because what happens is like he's very adamant on certain toys. So like he has favorites. So I could easily like try to hide it in places and he won't be able to find it type thing. And he'll just sniff around it forever. He's a really bad tracking dog. You would think for somebody that could smell well, like he has a bad deciphering of that. So he's very easy to manipulate.
Have you ever smelt his ass?
No.
Have you ever sniffed lines?
No. All right. We have one more segment, so why don't we get into it? To the NIL lawsuit. We can bring fish in, and this is going to be good. And then eventually we'll add scoops in. But first, fish. A quarterback, Jaden Rashada, has sued the University of Florida and coach Billy Napier for defrauding millions of dollars to an NIL money deal. The lawsuit said that he was originally committed to Miami, who promised a $9.5 million NIL deal. And he only switched his commitment to Florida because their NIL deal was almost $14 million. The lawsuit also said that Rashada's father, a single father of 5 kids, was promised around $1 million in a partial payment. He released a letter of intent to Florida once the deal fell through, and since transferring to Arizona State, where he played 2 games before getting hurt, Rashada entered the transfer portal again and is likely to go to Georgia. Florida is expected to be punished harder than schools like Florida State and Tennessee recently have for NIL violations. This is going to be a huge problem. This is going to bring in a lot of problems to the NCAA, not just in college football, but college basketball, college lacrosse, any college sport, even college softball. These girls, there's so many good softball players. They're bringing in so much money through Instagram and social media. You're going to have to pay these girls to come to your school because they're going to bring fans. They're going to bring people of value to want to go and watch them play. So when you hear this stuff with Jaden Rashada, I'm very interested to see how deep did Florida get into this NIL deal when they were sitting down and having a conversation about this. Because to me, when you see the NCAA and you're seeing, I don't know if anybody's seen that movie. I forget what it was called. It's something championship. It was like, and it was about the NIL. There was no NIL deal, in college football. And people were trying to figure out, how is this going to work? Why shouldn't college players make money? Why shouldn't college players bring in money for their own names? And you see, now obviously Reggie Bush got his Heisman Trophy back. Why? Because now it's becoming a big factor in where these guys are going. Now look at Archie Manning. Archie Manning decided to go to Texas. Why did he decide to go to Texas? He could have gone to Georgia. He could have went to Alabama. He could have went to Florida. He could have went anywhere he wanted. He's a Manning. But Ole Miss, or even Tennessee, he could have went anywhere, but he decided to go to Texas. Why? Because the NIL deal, the money that he was getting under the table by Texas. Now that there is money out there that these guys can make, it doesn't matter what they're going to draw and how they're going to draw it. As long as that team is willing to open up their pockets and give it to them, they're going to make it. And that, to me, it's good for college football. It's good for these players because some of these guys will never play in the NFL. Some of them are not good enough to play in the NFL. But because they're a 5-star recruit, and because there was 25 teams recruiting them, and they decided to go to Georgia, if they're deciding to go to Georgia and Georgia's offering $9.5 million to go to Georgia, even if they never step foot on an NFL field, they're set for life. $9.5 million could set their family and themselves up for life. And I think it's great because look at Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was making money off of his own autographs, and he was trying to do it under the rug. It wasn't legalized. These players for years weren't making money off their own names, as the schools were making money off their jerseys. Schools were making money off their product because of who they were and what they were drawing. Now, all of a sudden, these players are now making that kind of money, and now it's going to draw problems, because now it doesn't matter what you're going to offer them. You can offer these guys $25 million. You can offer these guys $30 million. As long as those schools are offering that money or telling them that's a way that they're going to bring these guys in, you can promise them all you want. You don't have to give it. There has to be some kind of NIL contract. Just because you're shaking hands and saying, I'm going to give you $9.5 million, or I'm giving you $14 million, doesn't mean they have to give it. There has to be some, but can it work? Can that work? Because with the NIL deals, how does that work with the contracts with those schools? Now, the schools are not really giving them money. Endorsers are giving them the money.
Right.
Advertisers are giving them money. So Archie Manning, he decided to go to Texas. What did Texas have to do? What kind of money did they have to slip under the rug to give Archie Manning that kind of money to say, you know what, I want to go to Texas from all the other teams, all the other prospect teams that were looking at him and saying, I want to bring in Archie Manning. I want to bring in a Manning. So it's such an interesting story. And I think this story is going to grow more legs, because this is not going to be the only story. And how much is Rashada going to get out of this deal? If this lawsuit does go through, how much is he going to get out from Florida? Florida is a very rich school. What is he suing him for? Is he suing him for $20 million, $25 million? And you're talking about a father that is taking care of 5 kids. What did Florida offer? They're saying Florida offered him $1 million. Is there any kind of rule to state that you can do that with the NIL deals? That's what I want to know. I don't know the rules. I don't know if that's legal.
It's interesting to think, because we were talking about it a couple of years ago when we were talking about Bryce Young's NIL deal with Alabama at the time in 2021. And a couple weeks later, Rashada was the one that surpassed that NIL deal with the one that he was supposed to take with Miami. They just brought in Oregon's coach, Mario Cristobal, that made a big splash hire. They were thinking that was going to turn their program around. And they were one of the biggest schools, along with Texas A&M and along with Texas, that were in on the NIL to try to turn their program around. So him getting the 9.2, a school like Florida that has been a good football program in the past had to do that maybe because of location.
But can you do that? Could you offer him from the NIL deal $1 million? Could you?
Yeah, I'm not sure who's the formality of that.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Is there anything to say? Is there a rule in the NIL deal to let you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, there's nothing confirmed right now, because we were talking about even with some of our other guests that, like, how much is it going to be regulated? It's going to be taken into that extreme. And if you're a school like Florida, which is northern versus Miami, that's a city, like maybe they felt like they had to give him that extra almost $14 million in order to make it work. And all of a sudden you don't promise it looks bad.
Heath says it's legal. I have to look at the
I think
rule.
as of now it is legal. And maybe
But how is that illegal? If that's legal, you could do anything. You could do anything. So if that's legal, you know what? I can buy all the 5-star recruits to come and play for my school. I can say, you know what? The number one recruit quarterback right now in the country, I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to offer him $10 million. That guy right there, the best defensive lineman, I'm going to offer him $15 million. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. That pretty much, there's no rule to say. And that's where there has to be rules that the NIL deal works and it doesn't work. And yes, it is a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I don't care. These kids should be making money, because these kids don't finish their college education. Most of these guys don't finish their college education. So what do they get out of this? If they're bringing in millions and millions of dollars for these schools because they're playing in ball games, they're winning championships or whatever the hell they're doing, they're winning 13, 14 games, selling out stadiums. If they're doing that, what are they getting out of it? What they should be getting out of it is some of the money. And that's what they should be getting. So the NIL deal is they're making money off their own name. I just don't like how this there's no rules. There's no setting of rules. They have to figure this out soon before this gets out of hand. It could hurt college football before it helps college football the way it is.
And I'm going to go back to what Scoops was saying too. In one of his sports reports, he was making a report of the fact that the NCAA is trying to finalize something of a system to pay these players too. Like they're trying to do it a little more formally. Now, I don't know if they could do a salary cap because there's too many schools, but maybe they could regulate it to where he's saying, all right, you can only pay one player $10 million or more, and then you have to try to divide out maybe a bunch of other $3 million, $6 million ones, and you get a certain amount of regulations
there. The thing is you're not, the schools aren't paying, or they're not supposed to pay them. It's supposed to be through advertisements and sponsorships off their own name. But these schools now, because now you can make money, now these schools could actually hide the money and slip the money under the table, and they could say, well, they got it from Burger King, or they got it from Subway, or they got it from some other company, and that's where they're getting it, which is illegal to do that. That's still illegal. So how does this work? How does the NCAA work this out and investigate this on where the money is coming from?
Yep, that's what they're going to have to be able to be more aware of, because those transactions are always going to be considered illegal, especially if it's something like a bigger company too. And again, what Scoops' report was saying before too, if it does become a universal thing throughout the conferences or throughout the NCAA, for one thing, I think the NCAA is trying to save their own brand because they were kind of falling apart as it is. But nevertheless, if there's going to be some kind of structure to this, how much will that still bring an advantage to the bigger schools too? Because you were talking about it, like other sports are going to benefit from this too. Football's obviously the big fish, but a school like Texas that has a good basketball team as well, like they have good in other sports. Women's basketball, they're very good. Like schools like that are going to strive based on just the amount of money coming in, the amount of the combined NIL deals. And I think Miami, which we were talking about with Rashada, are definitely one of those schools as well. And that's why they're going to get all these NIL deals in place. And that's why I'm interested to see how much that structure that the NCAA is going to propose to change is going to regulate it better. But those illegal transactions are always going to be as it is. Now, do you feel bad for Rashada? Absolutely, because Florida promised him something, $14 million, and promised his father an extra $1 million, maybe more. That's a betrayal.
I actually don't feel bad for Rashada, because if Rashada was a smart man, he would have had something on paper. He would have had something. He obviously didn't have anything on paper. Now, obviously, he was committing to Miami, and he decided to go to Florida because of the deal that they have. That he had, implicated in with Florida. It still bothers me that there's no paper trail for any of these deals and where this money is coming from. Because honestly, Archie Manning should have never went to Texas. There was no reason. There should be no reason why Archie is still with Texas right now, because he's not even starting next year. So you have 2 years without Archie Manning, a great young player that everybody keeps saying this guy was the #1 college recruit a year ago. Now that's 2 years that he's going to be sitting on the bench. And what does he have? 1 more year of eligibility, and that's it? I mean, and then he's going to go into the NFL. He's going to be the #1 pick no matter what, because he's a Manning. So there has to be some kind of paper trail. I agree with you, Keith, that works and it fits the way this NIL deal works for the players and works for the NCAA.
And really looks bad for Florida too, because you're not going to create a good image of yourself, whether it's Napier, whether it's the athletic director, of them trying to deprive people of money if they're not going forward of what they're going to do with. And $14 million is a lot of money to try to offer. And maybe you're right. Maybe they don't have to spread it out over time. Maybe you're not going to see deals that extreme right away if more players get paid, but you're not creating a good reputation.
No
already
player in college should be getting $14 million. They're kids. They're 17, 18-year-old players. They should not be making it. But go ahead, Fish. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, luckily, Speedy, the state of Florida doesn't care about its public image, as it's shown a lot, especially with their banner school. I've been there for a few years. There's something going on with some other school down in Florida called New College. We're not going to get into any of that stuff. But the thing is, they really they dropping the ball here. This was always going to happen. Now, it's a lot better that the NCAA has to deal with this right now instead of keeping someone from having a minimum wage job so they can pay their bills and still have to be a college athlete like it used to be. And then they lose that eligibility or they get fined or whatever it was. At least they're not doing that anymore. Now they have to regulate this. It's obvious it has to be regulated. But they need something to do, right? Their brand, as you were saying, is shot because their brand was awful in the first place. This is what they should have always been doing, is making sure that these things for 17-year-old kids, I teach 17-year-old kids, they barely even know anything about economics, even, or finance. They play the stock market game in most schools and think that they know something. It's just a game. It's like same thing as playing fantasy sports. It's really not that different, and I really don't like the idea of, this kid's now going on his fourth school since he was put into college in 2023. He was the number 6 overall quarterback, 5-star recruit. And you're seeing this happen with 5-star recruits. What about the 4-star and 3-star that have no chance of making it pro? That this is the only chance they're going to get money for sacrificing their bodies. I think it's really important that this gets regulated and fast, not just for these elite guys. Like, I don't feel bad for Rashada either. Look, that guy's going to be probably an NFL type prospect. He's got the tools. We just watched a couple of clips of him. He's got all the skills. He got hurt, and now he's going to Georgia. Those guys, half of them are going to be in the NFL anyway. So it's not him that we need to worry about. It's all the little people, and then the people that don't play the major sports that still are a big deal on their college campuses, the big fish in the small pond that were always forced to not make any money. And now they really should be making money off of what they do. And I don't think it's just the name. I think, the schools have to pay a little bit for using the image of using their jersey. There was a big thing that they always wanted to make money off of jersey sales and like the school stores and stuff like that. This, I believe, is now done. So I believe that's some of the things the school can negotiate monetarily, as you were saying before, Errol. But, it's still very much a gray area. It's like the pirate days. It's like the Napster days of the internet. Remember?
I remember getting free songs, free music, and then they shut that down, and then they brought in all these different LimeWire and all the other crazy stuff that people were making money off of. So you're right. And that's the problem right now. The internet is changing everything, even music, selling albums. Your album, these like Eminem and stuff like that. Everybody can't wait until Eminem's new album, the Death of Slim Shady, comes out. But why? Because you could probably get it 2 weeks before it comes out, because it's right on the internet. You can find it on the internet. Somebody has it. Somebody posted it, and either you can get it for free or you get it for 99 cents a song. So it's different now. The way the world works. When an album used to come out, you were waiting online when the store opened up. Now you just wait until the next day, at 7 o'clock in the morning when it opens up, when the album is going to hit, that it's out on the internet. You can get it on YouTube before everybody buys the album. So it's crazy. It's a different world out there now. It's completely different.
I remember as a kid going to, I don't know if you ever did this, Errol. I'm sure you probably did. Went to Tower Records in New York City in the
actually I did,
Times Square area. And you would go and the new album. Yeah, I used to buy the records. You'd hear the new album. You'd watch MTV because you had to find out the music. And then you're like, oh, I got to wait online, or I got to go and get, the only place you get headphones like these that we're all wearing now and listen to, the new album, and then spend whatever, $16 or whatever it was on 12 songs at max, and you tell that to kids, and I explained these experiences like I was a kid going to the city specifically to do this. No one has that experience in this generation. Everything changes, and look, it's for the better, for the worse, but it's going to change. And this new system has completely changed college sports. It's completely changed everything, but it's very dangerous right now because no one's really made any regulations. So let's fix it up.
I think it'll definitely change. I think they'll find a way to regulate it. I worry about the way everything is changing, and it's changing too fast, and it's moving too fast, and it could hurt the NCAA. It could hurt the way this money is coming in and how these players are going to be making their money in the future. Then it's going to help. But again, we don't know how it's going to work, and I think the NCAA and their chair, what do they call that? The round circle, what do they call the picks? What do they call that?
College Football Playoff Committee.
The committee decides how this is going to work in the future. But go ahead, put them through.
All right, Jeff.
I don't understand why you guys are so upset about these college kids making money and are already screaming for regulation. Like that, like the money exists, right? Like the money exists. So what do you care if it goes to college chancellors and deans and whatever, or football players? Like, what does it matter?
We're not complaining about that. We think the players should be making money. It just needs to be regulated. There has to be some kind of.
What needs to be regulated? There's either money or there isn't. So like they're not going to pay beyond the money they're making.
Jeff, here's the thing, and this is what I was saying. Let's say you're Georgia, okay, and you have a chance. Yes, the Bulldogs, and you have a chance to get the best recruits, the 5-star recruits. You can get the best quarterback, the best defensive lineman, the best corner.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No.
Listen. You know what? I'm going to give him $15 million. I'm going to give him 14, and we're going to mix it up, and we're going to pay these guys that kind of money, and we're just going to buy our championship. How does this work? How does this help the NCAA?
Because they're not the only one doing it. Florida can do it. Alabama can do it. Texas A&M can do it. Like there's other schools that are doing it. You're pretending like
it needs to be regulated. I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying it needs to be regulated. You have to have
what needs to be regulated?
The money that these kids are bringing in.
They're not gonna. They still want to make a profit for the school, so they're not going to spend outside of what they're making. That's the regulation.
It's all about championships. So if you bring these guys in and they're there, and that's the thing with the portal. And
but you should know this. Let's go back to the Yankees. Paying people doesn't guarantee championships.
That's true. But in college sports, it might do that because if you have the best athletes and the most talented athletes,
but not everyone. Like, dude, there's other schools that are going to be able to pay people.
No, right? No question. There's no question. But when you have the rich schools like Texas A&M and Texas and all these other schools, and they can offer the most money.
But you're pretending like there's like 3 rich schools. There's like 70.
We know that, Jeff. And that's not the argument here. It's just there has to be something regulated on it. There has to be some kind of contract. The reason why this whole Jaden Rashada thing is growing and it's going to cost the school a lot of money is because there was no deal put on the table. There was nothing signed on what they offered him. They just said,
to be honest, I'm really unfamiliar with that case. So like that's beyond me because I'm just not familiar with it. But like they're not going to spend beyond what they're making. So if the school makes just say 50 million, right? Like they're not going to spend beyond that, and they're going to have 90 guys to play because it's not like an NFL roster. There's a ton of kids there, so it'll be like 90 kids. Like, okay, it is what it is. And if you're the backup defensive lineman, because we see this all the time, like I'm not getting enough playing time, I'm going to trade. Well, some other school will compensate you for it.
Yeah, I don't think every kid is going to get paid anyway, just based on the large size of a college roster.
How does the portal? And how does the portal work? Because it's
not going to change.
Yeah, but how does it work? I think you can only jump ship at least maybe one time. I don't understand how
you can jump once for free, meaning like you don't have to sit. And I think the second time you do it, you have to sit a year or something.
Right.
But there's also jumping, like, so that's how like the portal works. But sometimes you'll see a kid go to a different school, 3 different schools in 3 different years, because they'll use the portal and go from one to the other, and then use like a graduate year or something, which does not count.
Right. Yeah, no, the extra eligibility, especially with the COVID, they definitely added that to that more, where there's like guys that are in college football for 7 years.
Right, but that's expiring too.
No, I know that. This is the last year of that group because 2020, 2020 rookies, I guess, would be that eligible year this year too. So yeah, that kind of thing will go away unless there's another outbreak out of nowhere. But.
But that's not going to stop. Like, Speedy, you went to school, like you went to Auburn for your junior year, Alabama for your senior year. You graduate from Alabama, and then you're just going to go to Notre Dame because you're a graduate now with 1 year left of eligibility.
Right, and that's the thing that I think will always have the flexibility with the transfer portal. But I think the one free year is not going to go away besides that, because otherwise you're right. They could just jump ship to get either more opportunities or play for a better team or whatever the season.
And let's not forget this part of it too, because this is like an important thing and why there are transfers and because you used to have to get your coach to sign a letter to say that you can transfer, right? Let's not forget this part. It's elective.
Yeah.
It's an elective thing. Like, they can't force you to go there. You know what I'm saying? So like, you want to go to a college, go to a college. Like, you can go, like, if you weren't playing sports, you could go anywhere you wanted. It's elective.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does it care? Like, what does anyone care how many times they trade? I'd say let them transfer wherever they want. If like you're from New York, let's just talk.
That's crazy though, Jeff.
New York culturally is vastly different than being at like Mississippi State, like you're in the deep South and things are crazy. And you go there and you're like, holy shit, like this is a whole different world than I know. Let me go to another school because like I made a poor choice. Like that happened. How many kids do you know just take athletics out of it that go to a school and they were like, wow, that was a poor choice. Like that was not for me.
Yes.
Right. Like culturally, it can be different.
Right. Yeah. Especially like if there's cross regional with this country too, which is very diverse.
Right. And I'm using, just the East. But what if you end up in LA or Washington State or whatever? It doesn't have to be New York to the deep South. Just things are very different culturally in different areas. So like maybe just that isn't for them.
Fish, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you missed what we were talking about, Jeff. We were talking about this Rashada kid who's going on his fourth school and going into his second year of college. And he was a 5-star recruit, and it's because U of F did some shady stuff, promised him money, and it didn't come through with it. So he had to bail on it, and then he didn't go to where he was supposed to go. And then, he ended up in Arizona State, and now he's going to Georgia, and now he's not the guy. And it's one of those things that this is because it's completely unregulated, because you're letting all of the schools, without having any rules on how they offer money. We're not saying not to give any of these kids, the transfer portal. It's none of us have said anything like that. So you didn't listen to anything we were saying, and you're still not.
Right.
But like,
no,
right.
I am listening, but you're missing the point because schools right now can't offer money. That's a contract between these NIL people, which is completely separate from the schools.
Well, look, that's the whole problem. If you're going to a school, you're gonna let when I was in college in Buffalo, was Fusillo Auto was doing all the commercials. You're gonna let like some local car salesman, the type of guy that got Reggie Bush in trouble. That's the guy who's gonna be in charge of who goes to your school. It has to be regulated. It's being stupid to do it like this. It's just saying don't play no blood, no foul rules.
To deal with McDonald's or Burger King or Pepsi. And I'm just naming large generic companies. I'm not trying to say that anything about that. That's between you and the company. That has nothing to do with the school. So what would you be regulating?
How these kids are paid, Jeff. Like it's how it has to be done. If you're going to college with an NIL deal,
that has nothing to do with the school.
That's not how it's being explained and how these kids are choosing schools, though.
These NILs are set up. They're supposed to have no affiliation with the school. Just because they're a group of boosters that went to the school, they're not affiliated. So look at them as Pepsi or Coke or McDonald's. That's who you have a contract with, not the school.
But these school, I understand what you're saying, Jeff, but the schools have something to do with those boosters. They're involved with those boosters, and they're getting those boosters involved with this deal.
No, by rule. It's an NCAA rule. You're talking about the regulations. Here's the rule. The school cannot influence the NIL deals.
Well, you might be right. You're 100% might be right, but they're still doing it. They probably are still doing it.
But the problem is, that's the thing. You're saying they're all one thing. And while they communicate for sure, right? I like this kid, so offer him whatever. The school isn't a part of that contract. So there's no regulating that. There's no way you're going to be like, well, we're going to punish the University of Alabama because the BMW salesman that went to Alabama promised some money and didn't come through.
Well,
that's not how that works.
I think the NCAA has to have people that investigate it before it actually goes through. That's what we're saying. I think they need to investigate it, where that money is coming from, where the deal's coming from, and make sure that it's signed and it's delivered that way.
But that's the thing. The NCAA isn't in charge of outside companies. That's like saying, well, the NCAA is going to look into.
But guess what? If they're playing in their school and they're playing in their division, they're playing in their league, they should be allowed to do that. They're playing on their turf.
They're not.
They are.
Jeff, you're wrong, man. You're absolutely wrong. They used to be able to tell you can't work for an outside company in the middle of the season because you lose your amateur status. The NCAA can do whatever the heck they please as far as that goes. They've shown it in the past. Now, maybe they shouldn't have done it, but the fact is right now, it's gone too far the other direction. It needs to, before it gets out of control, they need to control it. And of course they can. You might not think it's American because you're in Tampa, Florida, but that's about it,
That was before the NIL thing. They took that rule away. There's no more investigating.
Well, again, I think that the NCAA needs to do something where it can be regulated in some kind of way. I understand what you're saying. It's an outside source, but it's their league. They're playing on their fields. They're going to the school, but when it comes to the game and the football games and the deals, the TV coverage and everything like that, that has to do with the NCAA. They have their brand, they have their logo, they're promoting that. They should be allowed to step in and look at it and say, okay, this is not right. This should be right. This should be right. And figure out how to regulate it.
But this is why the NCAA didn't want to do that. That's why they put that rule there, that they had to be separate, because they don't want to be investigating all of these things.
I understand that. But again, it's going to get out of hand. That's what Fish is saying. It's going to get out of hand. It's getting out of hand right now. You're giving a player that, I understand you're offering the player $14 million. That's a lot of mucho dinero to a kid that comes from nothing, has a father that has 5 kids, can't
It's a lot of money even if you have money. Forget if you have nothing.
you know what I mean. You know what I mean, Jeff. What I'm trying to say is it's a lot of money. And you're giving it to a kid that has never seen that money and probably will never see that money again. So to me, there has to be some kind of regulations that work for the NCAA and those sponsors and advertisers that are working with those players.
But you keep saying, oh, there has to be regulations. But what would you want?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a league. I don't know how it works. We both don't know how this actually works. They have to figure that out. They have a committee that screwed Florida State last year, so maybe they have a way that they can figure out how this could work.
The committee didn't screw Florida State.
Yes, they did.
No, they definitely didn't. I mean, I realize that's the hill you want to die on as a Seminoles fan, but you can't really say that when you have 63 points hung on you in a bowl game.
They didn't play their defensive players. Half of their defense didn't even play in that game, Jeff.
Hey, it is what it is. Play your
Come on,
guys.
Jeff. Jeff, they didn't even play. Their star wide receiver, Coleman, how many times was he out there? What was he out there? Twice? 3 times on 3 plays?
Then you should be embarrassed with the team you put out there. We're getting off topic here. I'm not going down this road. The committee made the right decision there. They got it right last year.
I disagree.
But you want regulations, but you don't. Like, you're just screaming, "Oh, regulate!" But you have no idea what you're talking. Like, you have no idea what or how or when they would be regulating. You're just screaming regulation because kids are making a lot of money.
You're just not listening, dude. Whatever.
What do you want regulated?
That's all right. He's got his own opinion, and
no, but what do you want?
He's from a place where they don't want anything regulated because it's un-American to have anyone regulate anything.
And by the way, Keith,
I get it.
The whole point is to keep the NCAA out. No, wrong, Keith. Because if you keep the NCAA out, it's going to get worse. The league is going to get worse. How are you going to fit? That's the problem. No, Keith, you're wrong about this. How could you say you're going to keep the NCAA out of this when there's so much money that these kids are bringing in and they don't even know how and where the money is coming from? That's what we're saying.
Right. Oh, okay. But that's a different thing, right? Like, that's a whole different thing. And because Fish is correct, there needs to be some finance lessons and budgeting and don't go broke. Like, that would be a problem for sure. And by the way, they're going to college. Maybe they could take economics. But what do you want? I'm asking you, genuinely, what do you want regulated?
Again, where this money is coming from, how this money is getting divided out, and where and when is it enough? When is it enough?
I can already answer those 2 questions for you. NIL money comes from fundraising that those boosters do. So they'll throw parties or do whatever, or send out a mailing to alumni, and they get the money. That's where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And as far as who it goes to, that's up to the discretion of every individual NIL. Oh, I like Speedy, so I'll give him $1 million. Oh, I don't like Errol, so I'm not. Oh, I like Fish, so I'll give him $1 million. Oh, Nippin's a douche, he gets nothing. It's up to them, their discretion, who they want to give it to. They're not forced to give it to anybody. So I don't know where that's all been out in the open, but yet we're going to scream regulation because you don't get it.
No, and we got to go, Jeff. But maybe we'll come to this segment again next week. But we appreciate you calling us.
I mean, I just think it's ridiculous that you yell regulate, but then when someone says, "Well, what do you want regulated?" you go, "I don't know." That's patently ridiculous.
I get it. Don't tread on me. We're sorry.
Thank you, Jeff.
He's gone.
Oh man. You're itching your head. Oh my God. Oh,
What's
man.
wrong with you?
Oh man. What a show. What a show. I wanted to get Scoops involved in the conversation. It was very hard to do that tonight, but oh my God. Oh man, what a show. Anyways, thank you to Golden State play-by-play broadcaster Tim Roye. Willie Whoppers, Speedy. Willie Whoppers.
Willie Whoppers, Speedy. Willie Whoppers.
Thank you to our friend Bilal Powell, a former New York Jet running back. He was fantastic as well. Thank you to all the fans out there. Thank you for tuning into us. Keep tuning into us. Download us. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We really appreciate everybody. And thank you to all the guests. Do we have anything planned for next week, Speedy?
Yeah, well, he's been waiting to come on for other Tuesdays because Tuesday's his best day available. I've mentioned it before. The next NBA player who played for the Pistons, Alex Acker, will be joining us at 8 o'clock Tuesday. That is the only thing known for sure.
All right. So there you go. First time guy. So that'll be fun. He's in Italy, right?
Yes, he lives in Italy. So he's going to be in the morning for him. And then he'll be on at
cool.
8 for us. Yeah.
We'll scare the hell out of him. There we go. Wake him up. Speedy, maybe you'll lick his ass. What do you think?
Won't.
Well,
I'm not licking
I want you
anyone's
to slide
ass.
it right in.
What was that?
Not
What was
going to
that?
happen.
I want you to slide it right in.
Not going to happen.
Well, you should.
I'm sure you think that.
You should be open for it.
I'm sure you think that.
You want to smack his ass?
No.
It's good for both of us.
It's good for both of us.
No, it's not.
We're a team. You know, if you smack his ass,
No.
you smack his left cheek, I'll smack his right. What do you think?
No.
What do you think?
No.
Why?
Slap that ass.
Slap that ass, Speedy. Slap that ass.
Not happening.
You know, you got to be open for it.
No, I don't.
Well, we're open together. We're a team.
No, I'm not.
We're teammates,
Not
right?
for that.
High five?
No.
We'll do what do they call it? The Statue of Liberty? We could do that. You want to do that?
I have no idea what that means, and I don't care.
We'll do the Statue of Liberty together.
No,
you know,
we won't.
Maybe you'll tower over the statue. What do you think? No. You know, you can grab it. No. You don't want to grab it? No. You know, thickness is good, man. You like the thickness, right?
I don't know.
You like thick, right?
I don't know.
You like thick beef, right?
Sure.
Yeah, all right. What is your favorite part of the beef?
The flavor.
All right, the flavor. I'm sorry. That's right. Anyway.
How thick do you like the beef?
I just answered that 30 seconds ago. Now you're turning into him with the selective amnesia. No, I'm not embracing it.
Anyways, look at his face. He's like, God, get me off of this. Thank you. There he is. Irrelevant. Anyways, thank you to our executive producer, Aaron Fishman, for joining us and giving us such great content and posting all the different videos that we have up. So we really appreciate him. Thank you to Scoops for our play-by-play and our Sports Minute, as he always does a great job. And thank you to you, Speedy, for being you, as you always are. Put a smile on your face. Okay, that's a fake smile. But anyways. Yeah, it looks like you got something stuck up or jammed up your ass. Anyways, thank you to all the fans. Keep tuning in Tuesday next week and Thursday. Our show is getting moved to Tuesdays and Thursdays moving forward. It won't be Wednesdays anymore. We're going to spread out the content and make sure that the content is new. So shout out to all the fans. We'll be back next week. Good night.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.